Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 328, and we are live on Facebook and YouTube Wednesday night. Nate Hale's in the garage, as always. We have a returning guest, Ryan Newman, looking down. Look at the camera. Say hi.
How many times has he been on?
I don't know.
I think it's probably
several.
4 or 5.
I'd say at least 5.
At least.
Yeah. And we have a newcomer. We have Jeremy Ellis here in the garage from Micallef Cigars.
Yes, thank you for the invite.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing the cigars. We're going to learn tonight about Micallef Cigars, learn about Jeremy, and maybe learn from each other. Be very nice. Very nice. So go ahead and share, if you would, guys. Anyone that you want to share this podcast with. That's not the right message there. That's the one. Please share, like, comment, review, and subscribe on all the formats you enjoy listening to the show. Tell your friends, family too. Strangers is fine. Just introduce yourself. For those that support us, we appreciate all you guys out there. Patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. You have monthly contributions there if you want to do that on Patreon. We've had some long-time supporters on there. We appreciate that. So all you guys out there, that helps us do this, less money out of our pockets just to get it out there to you guys, streaming live, and then also obviously on the audio as well. Also one-time contributions. If you guys want to buy us a bottle or smokes, whatever it is, just give us a one-time contribution. Venmo @Bourbon and BS. We appreciate those contributions as well. And I can't see this. I'm going to guess Tinder Box at Easton. Thank you for the support there in Columbus, Ohio. We do have in Tinder Box at Easton, there are some Micallefs, including a new sampler called the Fave 5, I believe.
Yeah, it's a Robusto pack that includes 3 of the color series, the A, and then the Herrencia.
Right. And tonight we're going to be featuring the Red, which is the newest Micallef. You're kind of part of the core group there for them, for you guys. And then, so Tinder Box at Easton does have some Micallef cigars, as well as obviously I don't know, 500, 600, 700 different cigars in there as well. So check them out. They're also the home of the BS Cigar Company, so the BS Gold and Silver are available right now. The Robustos are in stock for the Golds, and we have no Toro right now. We're waiting on them. So Ryan Ponist out there with Forged Cigars, Alec Bradley Cigars, Placencia Factory Connection. Hopefully we get some more golds in the other 2 sizes. Right now the Robustos are in. The silvers are made by Espinosa, golds Placencia. And the silvers, we have the Toro. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, gold's made by the Nicaraguan factory for Placencia. And then La Zona factory with Espinosa, his own factory, is who puts out the silver for BS Cigar Company. So
and they're both Nicaraguan puros, right?
All Nicaraguan, throughout. Absolutely.
I will say the new silver that you got
so different.
It smokes very well.
That wrapper leaf on there.
So at my humidor, I had 5 or 6 left of my last batch, and I'd already bought a bundle for the humidor after you guys got the current batch of silvers in. I put those in the same box side by side.
They look like different cigars.
They do.
Do they look that different?
Oh gosh, it looks
darker.
It looks like it almost looks like a gold and silver.
The silver, the wrapper leaf that Eric gets and Hector puts on there is a Habano Rosado Oscuro. Yeah. So for a long time, you hear the Oscuro description, you'd think darker, but this time around, it's very dark. So
which I like because it makes the silver on the band pop.
Oh yeah,
more.
All around, it's always been a good peppery smoke, full body, but this last batch has been pretty much lights out. So that's fantastic.
I liked the gold over the silver.
Mm-hmm. It's an everyday smoke, right? The gold is.
The new batch of the silver was very good.
It's very unique.
Really.
I smoked one last night at like 7:30. I think I lit it up, and it's a lot at the end of the night. It's a lot, yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for checking them out. And then Altadis USA behind us, you'll see some of the brands. We had David Welch on with Altadis recently, and great podcast. Got that new Monte Cristo ashtray, that yellow one in front of Ryan and Nate. Behind us, though, you got Monte Cristo, Romeo Julieta, H. Upman, Aging Room, and there's several others. I see a Butera box somewhere here in the garage, I think. We've got a Romeo ashtray. We've got a Trinidad ashtray. Altadis as a sponsor, just in like swag and ashtrays, we're covered. There's ashtrays for about 20 people in here.
And earlier when you were looking for that BS box and couldn't find it, it's underneath that ashtray.
Underneath the Romeo ashtray, fantastic. Next to the Watershed bottle, who's also not a sponsor, but they've been very good to us
Yes,
recently.
they have, especially as of late.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. So mentioned that, the fall finishing series we have not featured on the show, available now at Watershed Distillery. It's a bottle shop only release.
Yep.
This is the maple syrup bottle, and this is going to be released now. And it's number 3 of the 4 for the fall finishing series. So check them out. If you're in Columbus, Ohio, a little shout out to Watershed there. And then last but not least, buyjack.com /bourbon and BS for any of the shirts like I've got on the shirt. For BS Cigar Company, Nate's got on the Pour One More, Light Up Another, We'll Figure This Out Together shirt for the podcast. There's some ladies deep V-neck. And then there's also going to be the 3/4 sleeves. Yeah. I mean, anyone can wear the deep V-neck. It's fine.
That was for you, wasn't it?
No,
you made that for you.
It was voted on.
No, you made that for you.
I don't.
No.
No, he actually
Kristen
reached
has
out
it.
to ladies in the community, and they voted on it.
It was V-neck or deep
Really?
V, and deep V won out.
Okay.
Very nice shirts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
It's been a while since I've worn a deep V.
buyjack.com /bourbon and BS if you want to get a ladies deep V-neck. Tapered at the waist, I think, a little bit, and never mind. All right. This is going to be a fun one, everyone.
Hoodies for the nice fall weather coming.
Hoodies, yes. There are some hoodies, BS Cigar hoodies, as well as the Bourbon and BS with a barrel logo, as you see in the upper. There you go, right above Nate's head there. Okay, I think that's business, right? Cool. Glad the election's over. I'm just going to say that. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole right now, but just glad it's fucking
No more
over.
texts, no more ads.
No.
Complaints?
No, there's
No,
definitely more
there'll-
complaints.
there'll
Yeah,
be
the complaints are going. Yeah, that's
Still.
not going to change
Ever.
ever. Yeah, ever. So roller coaster's not over, but at least we've got a little bit of, I think, a break there for a moment there. So.
I am surprised that we found out overnight, though.
Yeah, I am too. I thought it was going to be
At
least a week.
again, trying to stay out of that rabbit
Okay,
hole here.
all right.
Got it.
But yes, Ray Cheshire already says move on. Ray, did you vote? Oh wait. Micallef Cigars, Jeremy, first time in here. I'm about to light up while you kind of introduce yourself, if that's all right.
Yeah.
And introduce Micallef Cigars. We have not featured this brand on the podcast. Episode 328. Have not had any Micallefs on here that I can recall. Yeah,
Jared.
Was Jared
that's
on
right.
here?
Jared did bring some on here. That's
Yes.
right. We had what was that?
Those are the old blends.
It was either the bold blends that were
No,
coming out-
the older series.
No, I know. They were
Bold,
called
the
the Bold.
Bold.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's right. Jared was with Micallef for a period of time that we did have him on here. So forgive me for that. But first time we've had this
Because
on. First time
we had those, and then he also had the ones that had
Gomez Sanchez.
yes.
Coffee.
Yeah, that's the coffee series.
Yeah. So I forget which one.
And
we
Jeremy,
went
make
to that.
sure when you talk, you stay
Yeah.
in front of the mic, even when you pivot.
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 Jeremy, go ahead.
Welcome
to the show.
Yeah,
Light this
so
up.
I've been with Micallef for a year and a half now. And actually, there's two people that kind of helped me get that job. One is Ryan, and then Patricia. And so they definitely helped me get in. I've wanted to be in the cigar industry for a while, but just didn't know the way in. And so when this job came open, I put my name in and had no actual cigar experience.
Smoked them.
Well,
Smoked.
no, you were on the path of learning.
Yeah. I mean, helping you out in the shop and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. But yeah, not official cigar experience. I smoked cigars since 2013, but that's it. And then really no official sales experience.
Which is amazing.
Steve,
How well
so
you've adapted.
3 times.
Oh, wow.
We've had Micallef on 3 times.
And
Three
the
times.
fourth.
Yeah, the Herencia, the Modafina, and the Leyenda.
So with Jared every time, obviously.
Yes.
Interesting.
Not the first time.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
not the first time. So yeah, no really sales experience, and so they hired me. So here I am.
So,
But
obviously you sold yourself.
is that
That's got to be it,
That
right?
was it. Maybe they just wanted to try something different because cigar reps jumping from brand to brand just isn't working all the
It
time.
does happen a lot. I
Yeah, it
find in this, a lot of industries, I think it's like that. But this one in particular, there is a lot of, I always say it's like an inbred type of industry as far as salespeople.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people jumping and it is, you're absolutely right though. It's like people that they'll leave or be asked to leave from a company and then they pop back up somewhere else. Yep. But that's interesting though. You had no sales experience, but you had other experience. We'll talk about that, I think, more in part 2.
Okay.
But I mean, coming in here, we're Micallef. So it wasn't necessarily, you didn't choose them because of an affinity to them necessarily.
No. So I never smoked one of their cigars.
Okay.
When I put my name in, then I went around to different shops to try to find them to smoke them. Because I was like, well, if I'm gonna even get an interview for this job, I want to make sure I like the cigars. So
makes it easier to sell that way.
It does.
How did that go in the Columbus area?
Well, it was hard to find them first.
Sure.
Like the first place I found it was 3rd Street up in Waterville, close to Toledo, and then a few other spots.
You drove all the way up to Toledo.
No, I was already in the area.
Got it.
Yeah, I didn't drive all the way.
I was
there
gonna
just
say,
for that.
If you did, that's, I mean, look, hats off to you. But
and so and I smoked them and enjoyed them. For me, the construction of the Micallef cigars done by the Gomez Sanchez family is one of the best out there. And so, especially someone who drives a lot now, I like a cigar that doesn't fall apart.
Oh
yeah. That's always a terrible road trip when you're smoking a cigar and all of a sudden it's falling on your lap or in your car, burn holes and stuff.
Canoeing, you're trying to like relight it as you're.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, year and a half now, doing well.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, obviously, from at least my perspective, it seems like it's grown a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're definitely hitting the doorways a lot. You're traveling all the time. The Micallef Red is so. I think so. Now going back, now I'm recalling that a little bit. Before there was obviously the Gomez Sanchez line of different ones, including the Leyenda. I think that was a Gomez Sanchez at one point, and then you also had what we just referred to earlier was the Bold series, and that was a way. Do you share that aspect of it and where we've gone from there?
Our legacy blends, which include the Leyenda, the Herencia, our Connecticut, the Experiencia, and then the Reserva, like that was a lot of the Gomez Sanchez family's original blends.
Okay.
And then the Bold line came out, and that was done through General. And I don't know a lot of the story behind why they ended up doing that, except for maybe coming up with because one of the things they kept hearing from the onset was that cigars are too expensive.
Yeah, it was a price point thing, it seemed. I mean, those Bold series cigars. I mean, this is going back a few years now, but I mean, they were still coming in on the shelf around like $8, $7, something like that. I mean, there was this. What's that? Go ahead.
I think that had to do with trying to be able to hit production numbers with all the other stuff with the Gomez label. Like they couldn't do that and the Bold series and hit the production and volume of cigars
that makes sense
they wanted
too.
to be able to put out.
Yeah.
So they partnered with General for that because the number of rollers that they have on hand, but also the amount of tobacco that they're able to acquire and still keep that price point on
that makes sense. Value and also obviously production there. But they had some great blends, I will say that. I mean, you guys definitely picked some good ones. Micallef did, as far as you had the Matafina, there was that Brazilian one, the Matafina, Nicaragua. There was a handful of those that were nice, but those have since gone away, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
they got rid of those. While that was going on, they were, I believe, negotiating the deal to buy the factory that they have in Nicaragua. And so now, especially with the color series, we're almost fully integrated where it's seed the shelf. So we have our own fields.
Nice.
And we have our factory. And so everything's being done in-house.
When you say we, is it Micallef and Gomez Sanchez? Because there's a partnership there, correct?
Yeah, there is a partnership there. Two families joined as one, sort of thing. So yeah, the Gomez Sanchez family is our rollers. They but Micallef, our president Dan, and then our factory. What is this title? He runs the factory. Yeah.
Operations manager.
So they're very involved in the blending.
Okay.
So,
and the name Micallef, we haven't even touched on that yet. Where did Micallef come from? Like Ray out here is like, why haven't I heard of this?
So Al Micallef made his money through manufacturing silicone.
Okay.
He's one of the most amazing problem solvers I've ever talked to. Like when you hear his stories, The guy just sees things differently. But he made all of his money. He had factories in Detroit, now Texas. He had them overseas. He had them everywhere. He has other businesses as well, but manufacturing silicone is his main thing.
Still to this day.
Still to this day.
Okay, so businesses.
Yep.
Well, a lot of times you hear things, about it's like, oh, they made their money on this, and now they're just trying different ventures. So that's why I was just asking.
Yeah, no, it's still
rolling.
Still rolling.
So that's his bread and butter is the manufacturing of silicone.
Oh yes.
So obviously he's probably hands on with that too, right?
He's yes. I don't know how to answer that one.
When he turns, no one can
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Don't listen to them.
the answer is yeah, he's still involved. He still travels on the Micallef side. I know he's still involved with the JMac side. But I also know he's getting older, and I think retirement is probably in the horizon.
That's incredible with how much he's on the road. That I've seen him already on the road with the cigar side of things.
Yeah.
To know that he's got multiple other businesses that he's got to obviously attend to and pay attention to and be involved with. He's putting in a lot of time and a lot of energy, especially for that age.
He has an amazing work ethic.
That's crazy.
And here's what's most impressive to me, like on the JMac side, so the manufacturing silicone, he has employees who have worked for him for 50 years.
Oh wow!
Like not just one, like several.
Yeah.
That are like 40 to 50 years. And to me, like when you're a guy who's made the amount of money he's made, being as good at it as he has been, and he can keep that many people around him for that length of time, just as a testament to his character.
Yeah, and hopefully, obviously, any business side note there is that the people that have been there a long time are helping to groom for the future there, right? So when Al steps down and these key employees retire, obviously you want them to hopefully keep it going.
Well, so he had a factory overseas. One of the guys that worked for him is also now at a shop in Fort Wayne, and he was hired by Al. And then when Al sold that factory, he carved off some money for them, and then they stayed there for a couple more years, and then they bought the factory. And listen to Al tell the story. Like he's not just wanting to be successful himself. He wants to see other people succeed.
Love that.
And it's just amazing to see this guy and to work for him. But anyways, he was at a cigar lounge downtown Fort Worth.
Al was.
Yeah, about 8-9 years ago. And smoking a cigar. The Gomez Sanchez family wanted to get their cigars in the United States. So they went on a rolling tour, going to different places to roll cigars.
So I'm smelling this bottle.
It's delicious, isn't it?
It smells delicious. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just making smelling noises over here.
That's good.
It's good. It's good.
We're 20 minutes in. Steve still hasn't taken a drink yet.
Seriously, is that a record?
Starting to get an itch over here, boys.
Yep. So
scratching.
Their van breaks down right outside of the cigar lounge in Fort Worth, and Al and I think Dan was there as well, our president. They go out and help them get their van fixed, put them up for the night, feed them, that kind of stuff. Talk to them for a while. And so the next day, Al asked them to roll a cigar, their best cigar. That's the Reserva that we have in our portfolio. To roll their best one, he'll buy 1,000. So he bought 1,000 of them. He liked them so much, he came back and said, here's what we'll do. Let's go into partnership together. We have a warehouse in Texas. I'll buy you a factory in Nicaragua. And upon a handshake, two families collided. Right place at the right time.
Wow.
So that's how it began.
I like that. I mean, that was one of the things. And now that Nate brought it up, that we've had Micallef on with Jared, who used to work for you guys. Now he's with another company. As I said, right? What happens?
Yeah.
Okay. But it was the fact that story's not out there, right? That's all part of it. Is what you want to see. You hear those stories, and then you branch off, and you get Al's background, right? Yep. And then you get the partnership, Gomez Sanchez family out there. That was the big thing that I think has been kind of missing, is getting that word out there of just, I mean, because you see it between Ryan and Jeremy, the red box there, if it's on your screen, if you guys can see that. I mean, it's classic looking, right? And the band has a nice, almost like crest on there. Micallef Cigars, but no one knows what that is. It's just another cigar, right?
Yeah.
So there's got to be some growth there. And hopefully, I mean, it's something that Ray says sounds like a made up sales story. That's how these things work. That's the crazy thing, especially. I mean, I'm not going to speak for, Al Micallef, but when you've got the wealth behind you at that point, if you feel like doing something, you can do it. Now, the difference is do you do it just on a whim and let it fail, let it succeed, whatever, or do you put a little bit of work behind it? And it sounds like, based on what you had said, that with the work ethic the guys had, he's not going to just do it and throw away money. I mean, a lot of times the wealthy stay wealthy because they're very stingy, smart.
I think at one point, he probably did
what?
But, just with all the other blends that they had in the past, with the older line, with the bolds, you know what I mean? But that's trial and error, right? Like, then you grow as a company and you figure out, what your market is, and you get a team of people around you that can help you. And it sounds like that, over the past 5-10 years, that's what he's been doing, is figuring out who he needs on this side of things for for a cigar company, for it to grow, because it sounds like he's taking it very seriously.
And that's what I've noticed, is that his commitment to it, because although we probably still be classified as a boutique brand, we don't operate that way. We have our own factory, we have our own warehouse. They keep I forget what it is, a ton of cigars in their humidors in the warehouse, so they never have back order issues.
So there's a nice supply there.
We have a sales team, not using a broker. Like, there's just a lot of things that we've done that aren't typical for a boutique.
Newer, smaller company.
All right, let's talk about the red here. So you've had so far the original first one coming out of that factory, if I'm not mistaken, was the black, right?
The first color out of that factory.
Correct. Yeah. And then followed up by the blue, now the red, right? So we've got 3 in the color series here.
Yes.
Okay, so talk to us about this red.
So the red is a San Andres Habano over broadleaf, Pennsylvania broadleaf, with Nicaraguan and Mexican filler.
It's Pennsylvania, not Connecticut broadleaf?
It's Pennsylvania.
Really?
That's showing its head a lot more. And some people, I think, are hiding the Pennsylvania in a sense,
exactly,
calling it USA.
Just USA broadleaf. Yeah, exactly. It's got that stigma to it. I'm surprised it's Pennsylvania broadleaf. I mean, I thought it was broadleaf. I knew it was broadleaf.
Gives it a punch.
Yeah,
the Pennsylvania broadleaf, I think. All right, so and then
I don't know. That's what it has listed on
the sales sheet.
On the sales sheet.
I am seeing, like, I mean, even the new iteration of the Cohiba Weller. I mean, it says for the binder leaf that is aged in the Weller full proof barrels.
Yeah,
it says on the box USA broadleaf.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which
now,
is really...
I don't know if that's space. I don't know,
well,
but
I
or
think...
it's just undisclosed. That Pennsylvania broadleaf, I think, is the next one. It's been slow going.
Yeah, well, so Connecticut broadleaf is going to be no more very, very soon.
Yeah, they're so.
They're developing all of that land that where Connecticut broadleaf grows. At least this is what I've heard. I don't know if I've heard it from multiple credible sources, but Connecticut broadleaf isn't really grown, in a lot of acreage. It's a small farm. It's a small plot of land.
There's a handful of farms that are owned by different people.
Yeah, but it's not like, it's small plots of land, and a lot of it's getting commercialized.
Maybe I don't know. What?
Again, I don't.
We definitely listed as Pennsylvania.
You do. It's disclosed. Yeah.
So I don't know. So maybe
Altadis owns some out there because I was there.
Right.
In Connecticut. Yeah.
But I don't know if that's what's supposed to be selling. I don't know. I have no idea. Again, it's all rumors, but
yeah. Well, broadleaf's being grown in Nicaragua as well. I mean, Pennsylvania.
It doesn't taste the same.
No, and it won't. It won't. I mean, you can't have that same flavor in a different soil, different climate, right? You can't have that even if you have the same seed.
Yeah.
It's going to be different there. I mean, just like some would say that, true Connecticut shade grown stuff tastes different than Ecuadorian shade grown, or now the Nicaraguan Connecticut seed shade grown, like on the Plasencia is using on the Romeo there. What do you got?
So something that we have so our president was high up in Microsoft for a while before he retired from there, and now is the president for JMac and for Micallef. But he put a lot of work into this Ask Micallef AI on our website, Jesus Christ, which is pretty unique, and you can ask it anything. So if you're watching and you want to check it out, you can ask it anything.
Really?
Cigar related, else or otherwise?
Yeah, you can anything you want to ask. You can ask.
Okay.
I don't know what the answers will be, but it is an AI generated.
Is this on the website?
It's on the website.
We're gonna have fun with that.
Yeah. MicallefCigars.com. So if you want to ask questions.
There you go. Ray says fan of San Andreas. San Andreas Habano, right? So that's also very specific on how you label that. It's a hybrid. Habano seed grown in San Andreas.
Yep.
You don't know where that leaf's coming from, do you?
I don't.
Okay. If it's true San Andreas, I would imagine the Turren family, right?
Yeah.
So I would say it's Habano seed grown in San Andreas, right? That's what
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it's that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
This is probably in my top 10 cigars ever.
The red?
Yeah.
It's a unique blend, right? You even had, you said San Andreas in the filler as well, Nick Robbin, San Andreas.
Yeah.
The Pennsylvania broadleaf, again, I think is showing its head a lot more. I mean, you're going in the last 10 years, you would see it pop up every once in a while, either in filler. There were a couple wrappers, if you remember.
Padilla did it with the vintage reserve.
Yeah, Padilla came out with that. Same time as the Oliva Melanio Maduro, that Padilla broadleaf came out the same time.
That's right.
But it was Pennsylvania broadleaf. Very unique, I think, a lot of times. That Pennsylvania broadleaf has a characteristic that will usually stand out. Sometimes, depending on, I think, how it meshes with the blend, it turns some people off also. It's a little bit, I don't want to say harsh, but it's a little bit more of a brash flavor.
Yeah.
Even more so than I think Connecticut broadleaf a lot.
I agree 100%.
I don't know if that's the soil.
Do you think it has a harshness to it?
No, I think this one, the way that you guys used it as the binder, it balances out. I get more of a, so I think, and it's tough because you have the San Andreas, but it's Habano on the outside. You got the San Andreas, and we don't know what kind of seed, right, is the filler. Maybe Watson would know over here on the AI. Does the AI have a name? It's not Watson.
Can you name it?
I think it's
Watson's
Micallef.
IBM. That's not creative.
I think Ask Micallef. It's in its beta stage.
So is that Al in there?
No.
I said Ask Micallef.
What am I asking?
No, because if it says Al, it'll look like AI.
That's why we didn't.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
Ask
AI. Unless it's in caps. It's all formatting. No, I think this cigar. Well, Nate, let's hear from you. What do you think? You've smoked this, correct?
I smoked it once or twice. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very earthy.
Okay.
I get what you kind of alluded to there a little bit, Steve, with that kind of brash in your face. Like it comes across. It's not a harsh flavor or a harsh smoke. It's not smooth either. Like it's kind of in between. Like it's got some characteristic to the way the smoke hits the palate. But for me, I get a lot of earthy flavors, almost like a Cameroon, but with more body.
That's interesting. You say that. Yeah, that's
why.
No,
they could.
No,
no one out there could hear you 3 feet away from the mic.
I said that's interesting that you say that because I'm not saying that you're. I can see what you're saying with the Cameroon wrapper. I don't get the earthiness from it. I get a lot of sweetness from it. I get a lot of sweetness from this blend. It's more like a floral, but it's still. I don't
get sweetness from this. I get sweetness from the.
Well, I'm saying from the cigar in itself. I mean, I smoke this often.
Okay.
And I feel like this is my favorite out of their portfolio so far. And when I smoke this, right when I get about right after that first half inch, I get this floral sweetness that just really opens up. It's really bright, but there's still that it's just a thicker feel on the palate, and it's just a little bit more body, a little bit more strength to it. So you do get like that lighter side of medium flavor with a little bit more just extra oomph to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it richens it up.
It does, and I think that's where that Pennsylvania broadleaf comes into play.
Well, and that's why I said it's like I get flavors reminiscent to Cameroon.
I can agree with that,
but with more structure, more body, more emphasis behind it.
I completely agree.
This to me smokes a medium, medium, but full in flavor. Like I think the flavor profile is more complex.
Very full flavor.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like
it saturates the palate.
Yeah, it does, but it's like a dry. It sounds weird, but like a dry spice. You know, it's kind of like it's not
like a nutmeg. Or like a cinnamon almost?
Well, like the earthiness, maybe a little bit of cinnamon. Yeah, there's a little bit of a spice there. Retro Hail, I definitely get a bit of a spice pepper almost. Like I get a little someone like that doesn't retro all the time. It's got a little bit of like a burn, like a pepper, but in a good way. It's not overpowering.
It's like a green peppercorn.
Yeah, I mean I've got like some spice to it, which I get out of this. It's one of the reasons I like it.
Through the nose. That spice is, for me, it's a little fleeting.
Yeah.
It just pops.
Yeah.
And then
I get
the spice, at least.
The Cameroon reference for me, it has a little bit of the earthiness. That's where I think the dryness comes out of it. But sometimes the old school San Andres blends would have that as well. With being the Habano seed in San Andres, it definitely has a uniqueness to it in a good way. I get, it's funny you said sweet, Ryan. I'm not getting as much sweet. I'm getting more that kind of a dry woodiness, a little bit of spice to it more for me.
I get that woodiness too, for sure.
Yeah,
there's definitely like a raisin or a molasses, like
maybe it's what it is. It's like a molasses. Maybe not. It's just an interesting sweetness,
especially on the retrohale.
I agree,
and that's what I like about this. The retrohale doesn't burn at all.
So it does a little bit because there's that that's that strength going, right?
Yeah, a little.
I get some in mine.
Yeah, I get a little bit, and that's that strength coming in, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
When it's real light, like if you're using
have
like
different opinions.
If you're using when you're using Allure and stuff like that, like the real like lower priming tobacco, like when you retrohale that, it's almost like nothing. It's almost like air. But when you got the higher priming tobacco and whatever you're using in the blend and the filler and the binder, you retrohale that. I get a little bit of burn to it, but it's that sweet, almost like molasses finish, as you said. I think that's kind of spot on with that sweetness.
I think the black has definitely more pepper on the retro, like pretty strong.
Yeah, it's a bolder flavor profile as far as that goes, I think.
I think it's about the same as far as strength, though. It's interesting. It's just
on our sales sheet, I think they have them both listed as full, but I think this is medium. I think the black is a little stronger, but I also wouldn't say that the black is full body in my profile.
Yeah.
I think it's close to medium plus.
Yeah, I can see that. Overall construction, though, I've been impressed. This is coming out of your guys' factory, correct?
Mm-hmm. We still do a draw test on every cigar.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, it definitely has that nice draw. The ash does hold a bit. The burn line, everything that some of the cigar nerds out there will look at. You know what I mean? It's hitting a lot of the check boxes as far as like construction and draw and everything there. I think I've had good experiences with this. The black I have as well. The blue. The black, I feel like when you guys first put it out, it was good. I'm of the opinion that as I've smoked, as you've introduced the blue, I haven't really gone back to the black much, but as you introduce the blue, now the red, I almost feel like the construction is getting better. And I don't know if that's the blended tobaccos that you guys are using, or if this just everything's kind of jiving more at the factory than when you first started off. Like I said, I haven't smoked the black in a while.
That factory's killing it.
Yeah,
for sure. As far as consistency,
this new stuff, like our color series.
Mm-hmm.
Even the legacy line, like it's been great. But to see what we've been able to produce from seed to shelf and at the price point.
Yeah, that price point's incredible for
the price point for everyone out there on this. They're all the same, right?
Do you want me to give it MSRP or
MSRP? Yeah, because state by state where you guys are, like, if is this international yet or no?
No.
So Ray, you're not going to see this in Vietnam where you're at, but in the States, every state in the United States has different tobacco taxes, along with, not only like cigarettes, but obviously the cigar tax is different in all the states. So
MSRP on the Toro is $8.
It's ridiculous.
Robusto $7.
So
and that's for the black, blue, and the red.
And for people that are not, they're more in the bourbon as they are the cigars listening tonight. That's the average price from like 10 years ago.
Yes.
Average price now, I'd say on the shelf is, you're looking at that more $11, $12 range is the average. And that's gone up in the last few years, just like everything else in the world, in this country. But yeah, so you're coming in at $8 for a Toro that has good construction. I mean, you're automatically getting some kudos there, right? It's a more budget friendly. This isn't a bundled line type of pricing, but it's more of a budget friendly line. And it's very interesting.
It's a catch-22 though, because you have people who get excited about the budget-friendly cigar, but then you have people who like $8. I don't know.
Can't be good.
Is it? Yeah, it's not good. It must be short-filled.
Yeah.
And
but
so
I think it's one of those things where because you guys grow all your own tobacco, you're not sourcing it. That takes out a cost component that other manufacturers would have. Because you're not having to go buy stuff from other companies. When you grow your own tobacco, you're able to keep that cost down.
You assume the risks too.
Yes, you do. Absolutely.
So that's the gamble, and I think that's why like it's nice to be able to do that. But I understand why a lot of places probably don't do it because
well, I mean, not to mention how much extra manpower that is.
Yeah,
I mean that's ridiculous.
And you figure though, I mean, this is all it's relative to the blends, right? Because your factory and fields are in Nicaragua, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, obviously you're sourcing the wrapper leaf. You're sourcing some of the probably if you have blends with like say Dominican or Honduran as they go, you'll be sourcing some of it. But anything you can do, grow and manufacture yourself, obviously it's going to help. The rolling part of it, obviously, you're using your own factory, so hopefully, if you're vertically integrated, obviously that's going to help out with the price on that stuff. But you do carry some higher priced items as well.
Yeah, our Leyenda in the coffin, one that people it's a Gomez Sanchez, and so people get confused sometimes. It is a Micallef cigar, Gomez Sanchez, Leyenda. It's their original blend since 1934.
Is that the same as this Micallef Leyenda?
So the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
The one in the coffin
has Gomez Sanchez on it still.
Has Gomez Sanchez on it, but it's the same blend.
I got you. And it is a figurado.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So
which without a mold, they do that by hand every time.
Amazing. Well, the coffin itself will mold that thing.
That's true.
That coffin is really cool.
Yeah, because you have to take that little foot of the coffin off in order to get the
and people don't know that.
Yeah. They
try to pull out.
It's like, I don't know if I can say this in 2024. It's like a Chinese finger trap.
Yeah, there you go.
Or
that's still
is that preferred?
Yeah, that works.
I don't know. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, you don't want to be canceled.
I don't care about
that. The Chinese government's watching this. They're going to come after us.
No.
So, but that one at MSRP is
tricky times, guys. Tricky times
for the Churchill size, $20 MSRP, and then we have the Reserva, which is it has like 8 different tobaccos in it, and it is $42 for the Churchill.
That's it.
Here's the thing.
I don't think I ever smoked that one.
How come you never gave that to me? Yeah, I haven't either.
You have smoked it.
No,
you smoked it in the Corona size. You've smoked it in the.
But not the $42. I want the $42.
Yes, you've smoked it.
Oh, okay.
He has smoked it.
He hasn't bought one, clearly.
He
has not bought one, so he didn't know the price of it.
They come in 5-count boxes, so they're really. I mean, they're still.
Yeah, I had that.
Yeah, they're.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a good cigar, but that's a cigar that kind of caused the partnership.
Yeah.
And so what I love about this company is like they don't push us to like sell those. You know, some companies are like, man, we have an overstock of these, let's get those out there. They don't, because that's Al's cigar. He's like, this will always be my celebration cigar. Yeah, the Reserva. So and it is a great cigar.
And that has the Gomez Sanchez name on it, or is it the Micallef name on it?
It says Micallef on the Corona size.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've only had the Leyenda as far as their top end, but that was again going back when you guys were first really reaching the Midwest before you were with them. But it was definitely a unique coffin. It's exposed on the top, and people like cigar smokers think of a coffin. It's usually got a lid on it. This is kind of it's open faced, but it is tapered, so the cigar is secured in there, and then you kind of lift up the top or bottom. I forget what it is, but
bottom foot,
and it'll slide right out there. Yep. So. Definitely when I say that, it's just kind of a little tricky when you're looking at it. Someone's like,
someone's trying to break the box.
It is.
Oh man, dude, with the first
those puzzle boxes. Like I can get this.
That was when you were working at Tinder Box still, Ryan. When we had the Leyenda, was that?
Well, no, I mean, I'm just talking about about 6 months, a year ago. It almost beat me. I almost didn't sell it to somebody. I couldn't figure out how to get that damn thing out of there. I was so frustrated. Listen, I almost called Jeremy, cursing up a storm. Saying like, what the? What? Like,
light the box around it.
Yeah. Once,
it'll burn right off.
Yeah.
Once you figure it out, it's really not that difficult.
No, it's really not.
It's not. It's not.
Definitely still buy the sticker on there to hold it together.
Yeah. That thing sucks.
It makes sure you're sober when you have to smoke it, because if you're too drunk, then
you're not figuring that out,
and then you're not going to enjoy it as much.
And I don't even drink. I couldn't figure it out.
So we will release a new color at the PCA
in 2025.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we have
you can't say what color though.
I can't.
I'm not even asking for the blend.
Nope, I can't.
What do you guys think? What color do you think? You got red. You got red now. Blue, black was the original.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw out. It's like that hot dog race at the Clippers here.
Love it.
Baseball game. Anyone? So I'm gonna, you got yellow, which I don't think he's gonna go with. You probably got green. That's out there. That's an obvious one in the cigar industry.
Yeah, that might be one.
That might be one. Green, orange, that might be too close to red. I'm gonna go with green.
Yeah, but that blue and black's pretty close too.
Relish is a
They
green.
are.
Yellow's mustard. We already have red, so we gotta have another topping here for the hot dog.
I was thinking
for the race.
I was thinking it'd either be green or white.
Purple relish.
White
or
could
not
be
relish,
one.
Onions. Green's relish.
Red onions.
Purple relish.
Onions. Purple the onions.
Okay.
Purple with the onions.
I'm gonna go. You say green or white? White would be the Connecticut. I think if you follow suit with the rest of the cigar industry. Billy says yellow or green. LOL. Billy, does he work with you guys?
I don't know, Billy.
I think Patricia.
Oh, is Patricia on here?
Patricia was on here. Said hi to Billy. I think they know each other.
Oh,
hello, Billy.
Hello, Patricia.
Hi, guys.
And Billy.
And Kyle out there listening. Sean Anderson's out there. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening tonight.
Yeah, Billy's in Long Island.
What do you think about the bourbon?
Well, let's go to that. Let's switch over here on the banners. So what are we drinking tonight? RD1,
yeah.
Which stands for, it's on the side here. I didn't know that.
What's
Registered Distillery 1. Did you know that?
I read it earlier.
Did you know that's what it? Did you
I
put it together
until you just did?
So registered starts with an R. Distillery is a D.
Thank you.
Here, I'll turn the sideways so you can see that.
That helps. I can get my cigar out of the coffin. So
what are you trying to say? Why? Listen, just because you're the problem here, why do you have to throw that on me? Yeah. You're supposed to be my boy.
Billy said he met you at Casa and he's Scott's friend.
Oh, what's up, Billy?
And now you're.
I can't see your picture on his iPad, so.
All right. The reason this is called that, and we'll get to it. So as you see on the screen, if you guys are listening on the video here, RD1, Registered Distillery 1, double finished in oak and maple. This says small batch Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, double finished in oak and maple barrels. This is coming in at 99.9 proof.
And it's not in Ohio yet.
Not in Ohio. So
I picked this one up at Party Source.
Party Source in Kentucky, right? Yep. So this says this is the rebirth of Lexington's first federally registered distillery, established in 18. Man, you gotta know some people's eyes are bad. 1885 or 65. I think 1885. I says the date on here somewhere, maybe. But yeah, so that's why it's called RD1. It's the first federally registered distillery in Lexington.
Very cool.
Did you find where it's made right now?
So earlier this year there was an article that came out. It's the juice is coming from Western Kentucky Distilling Company, and then it's finished with staves.
Yeah.
So French oak and maple staves. The French oak, the way they, if you want to say, like cure the staves, it almost sounds like they're pressure cooking the staves.
Explain to me what a stave is, for those that don't know.
So a stave is
right there, behind punch, down,
right here.
Direct your eyes.
So a stave is that strip of wood that come together and make the barrel.
Yep.
So each one of those pieces is called a stave.
Got it.
And there's usually about 23
that make up a barrel. Got it.
And they're all different sizes, and so so a cooperage, it's really an art form, because you take all these different staves that are slightly different widths, and you're piecing them all together to try and make that 53-gallon barrel.
Mm-hmm. Are they universal? Are they all 53 gallons?
Well, no, there are some brands that use smaller barrels. When we had the 2 Columbus firefighters on, they buy some like 3-liter barrels, some 5-liter barrels, and they do like their own aging and finishing stuff.
Not to get like too off topic, but the smaller barrels, does that change anything? Does it
So some companies, especially newer startups, might use smaller barrels. There are some companies that do the whole pressure cooking with the barrels.
What are the pros and cons for the 53-gallon versus a smaller barrel?
So the smaller barrels, theoretically, they're going to age faster.
Sweet.
But Steve and I, we've had several whiskeys on here that have used those smaller, like 25, 30-gallon barrels, and it doesn't pull enough flavor out because they're trying to use those smaller barrels to age it faster, so that way they can put something out that's less than 4 years old, but still try and get the flavor. But people that drink enough will be able to pull that out. They'll be able to taste the difference between, a 2-year bourbon done in a 25-gallon barrel versus a 4-year bourbon done in the 53-gallon.
And
it just doesn't have the richness typically.
Okay.
Sometimes it'll come across a little too oaky, or kind of light on the palate. It doesn't have that richness of flavor a lot of times.
Sure.
Yeah, I think now we're going back probably 6 years ago on this show when we did the Cleveland Underground.
Yep.
And they had they were wood barrels, right? Or were they metal barrels?
They were wood,
but they were 25.
They were pressure cooking them.
They're
as well.
pressurizing it to try to accelerate the process of the natural
So what they're
aging.
doing is they would basically subject the barrels to artificial pressures in order to force the juice in and out of the barrel in order to make that juice age faster.
Now the Japanese, I think it's the Japanese, have been able to figure out how to do that faster, to do like a 13-year-old bourbon and it tastes like 13-year-old.
It could be part of the similar process. I don't know.
It's I've just heard this recently in some of the conversations I had around lounges, that they've been able to replicate.
Well, with them, they're doing single malts. So most of your Japanese whiskeys are going to be single malts, kind of like in the same style as scotches.
Yeah. And it might not have been, I don't know if it was Japanese or Chinese. It's probably bad that I don't watch it.
Sorry,
careful now. Again, tricky. Yeah, Billy listening, he says, can't mess with physics. I mean, that is part of it. True. I mean, you can apply that the theory behind it, but as far as we don't have necessarily a small window of looking at that, but I mean, compared to some people out there, obviously we have limited knowledge of some of the ones that are going to be manipulated in that way. I think some things have changed a bit now too, where there's a lot of distilleries that are, able to source it out. So a lot of people don't have to do that as much. If you're getting that, but when you're trying to accelerate that and get the product out there, and I believe you don't lose as much, right? When you're pressurizing that in and out of there, you're not having that angel share going out of there. Yeah. So, I mean, you have smaller barrels, but you're not, when you're aging a barrel in a rick house, you lose a percentage of that juice
evaporation,
over time. So, I mean, that's part of the cost that goes into the aging of it. For those that aren't familiar with that, is you lose part of it. So not only warehousing this, and it's taking up space and your time, obviously, as well, but you're losing product on a natural basis because of that. So when you're doing you're manipulating that, there's a lot of different reasons to do that. But in my experience, I think Nate, you as well, doing this, having those, it tastes different. It doesn't have your classic flavors you're going to get out of that.
You don't get as much of that char, the vanilla, the caramel, stuff like that. You don't pull as much out of that.
So at what point, when we're talking about aging a barrel, at what point, there's all these speed distilling methods now where you can obviously, you can expedite some of the process, but at what point does it get to be where you're not seeing any difference? You know what I mean? Like when it comes to aging a cigar, you sit on it for about a year, 2 years. After that, it's more so for, you can keep it and it'll stay in good condition, but over time it could lose a little bit of its original characteristics.
There's a point of diminishing return on cigars. Yep. But not on bourbon.
There isn't.
I don't think so.
I think there is when it's aging in a barrel.
Yeah, in a barrel. So not in a bottle that you've opened.
Yeah, no. So my experience, there are some companies out there can be too much aging. So, I've done some flights at work and stuff with some of these higher aged bourbons, and there's a point, and from what I've experienced, it typically comes after 12 years in a barrel where now you start tasting too much oak. It's too woody on the palate.
What about those companies that age them for like 20 plus years?
Yeah. So I did a flight earlier this year because we had a flight at our bar at Carfagna's, and it was Pappy. It was Old Rip Van Winkle 10, Lot B 12-year, the 15, 20-year Pappy, and the 20-year, because it's done at like 90 proof, it tasted like you were gnawing on a 2x4. It was just nothing but oak. There was nothing else there really on the palate.
Yeah.
It's just too much oak. So that's where I think, to Jeremy's point, is that diminishing return is you've aged something so long that it's pulled so much tannin out of the wood and so much of that oak flavor that's now the dominant flavor that you get on the palate.
Yeah, with cigars, I mean,
well, like recently with
different. You know what I mean? It's just different with tobacco.
Well, recently with cigars, like I've smoked a few over the last month that I've had in my humidor for numerous years. Like I recently smoked one that I bought from my old shop, I'd say in 2014.
Yeah.
And the flavor's just not at all what I remember. I smoked another one that was a really nice Maduro that I'd had for a few years. And again, the richness, that chocolatiness, the espresso that I love about that cigar was gone.
Yeah.
I smoked one that I'd had in my humidor for at least 3 years and then smoked a fresh one. And it was very different. So that's one of those things where I've learned, like, you know what? I'm to the point where I'm almost done just sitting there holding on to stuff for years and years and years because I'm not benefiting from it.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's a one of the podcasts I was on recently, a guy there that worked for a distillery company, and he has at his house a barrel, and they put in a bunch of different bourbons when guys come over. They'll take the bottle. Infinity barrel. This is brilliant. I've never done it. I don't know, and he regulates what they can put in. Like it has to be a certain quality.
Yeah, sure.
But have you ever done that?
We had one going for a while, and we, just didn't. We drank it and haven't added to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it got.
Was it a barrel?
No,
barrel?
No, it's an actual infinity bottle.
Yeah.
So we were like,
needs to be a barrel. Let's do a barrel.
Cool. Maybe at the new house.
Your new house.
Yeah, the perpetual blend.
That looks sticky.
Probably should rinse it out.
Yeah, that looks sticky
with some Brita water.
Yeah. That's brilliant, man. That's brilliant.
So that was a gift, I think, from Jonathan Herring.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like at the end of the night, when Steve and I would work on a bottle and we'd get down to where there's, just a little bit left in the bottle, instead of finishing it off, we would throw it in that infinity bottle. And then the next week we do the same thing. And we just kept doing that. Well, then eventually it got to the point where, if we had like 4 of us on like we do right now, please and thank you. Like we might polish off a bottle, and then afterwards we're like, hey, what else do we have to drink around here? Oh, hey, let's grab that infinity bottle. so we haven't used that.
Well, definitely rinse it before you use it.
Well, yeah.
So
that's it's called character.
Got it.
Yeah.
This
it's got a corkish thing in it.
Yeah. It's seasoned.
That's a good word for
seasoned.
It. Yeah.
It's like a grill.
Yeah, and the alcohol, I mean, it'd be fine.
So the RD1, they have
green in there too.
Green, red, and brown. The green is their
is it a rye?
Straight.
Oh.
No. The red is aged in, how do you say that? Ambrito?
Amberuana.
That one. It's aged in.
They loves that.
Yeah. And it's very good.
You just like to say it.
I like the red and the brown.
So anytime I have had a bourbon that has been finished in an Amberuana barrel, it tastes like apple pie.
So that's the first one I had. It was delicious. I went to where I found this was I was at Jake's cigar bar in Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
I was there like, hey, have you had this? I'm like, never even seen it. He's like, you got to try this. And it was delicious. And then I couldn't find it anywhere here, only down there.
What's this bottle go for in Kentucky? Where you got it?
$59.99.
Nice price. Nice price. Ryan, what do you think of this
bottle by itself?
Yeah. We're not to the review.
About that, yeah.
Well,
no, what do you think?
It's good.
It's too sweet for you.
Yeah.
It has that Angel's Envy caramel taste to it.
Well, and it's not that I don't like that. There's just something missing to it.
Interesting.
Missing?
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the.
You have been sick.
True. No. That's a valid point.
What's that? The box you're sucking on there? What flavor is your vape? Looks like flaming hot Cheetos
or strawberry.
It's a live diamond.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I think it's like
what does it taste like?
Like resin.
Resin?
Yeah.
Raisin?
No, resin. RESIN.
Okay. That might be affecting your.
No,
it's like resin.
I think it's pretty complex in flavor. It's definitely not.
I'm not saying it's not. It's just it's missing something for me.
Okay.
And I think for what it is, I mean, I don't know if it's because it's 99.9, but I've been enjoying a lot of things that are a little bit higher proof.
Okay.
And for me, it doesn't have that finish to it to where like that mouthfeel, that coated mouthfeel. It doesn't have that almost like that chest feel when you drink it. You know what I mean? Where it's missing something.
Yeah, I don't get as much of that kind of hug or anything, but it's interesting you say like the viscosity though. When I first take a sip, it is like syrupy, but then it's clean. It doesn't stay on there as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but at first, it's like this kind of like creamy. I do get maybe because it says it on there, but this is one that I'm getting a lot of that maple syrup also.
Brown sugar maple.
Yeah. Brown sugar. So I get a lot of that flavor, but it is a little bit fleeting. Maybe that's kind of where Ryan's going with this, because I kind of agree that it's not 100 proof, call it 99.9, but it doesn't necessarily give you that Kentucky hug. It doesn't really kind of hit
that
you in
oily,
the chest. But at first I think the viscosity is there. It just kind of dissolves quickly. Yeah.
So
go ahead, Nate.
I think that comes from that French oak.
Okay.
So I don't typically like a lot of whiskeys that are finished with French oak. So like Maker's 46.
Mm-hmm.
I had that for the first time. It was delicious.
You like that?
So
yeah.
So for me, like Maker's
parallels here.
Maker's 46, Penelope Architect.
I like that bottle
with those French oak.
The blue label, right?
Yes.
Yep.
With those French oak finishes, French oak to me just comes across really bright and sharp. So that's why I don't like those. But I think what that is doing here is that shorter finish. So you get a lot of that maple up front, like that brown sugar, caramel. I get a ton of that up front. But then I think because that French oak, that's why it doesn't come across syrupy and coat the palate too much.
Cleans it out a little bit.
It is because of that French oak.
And
you're not getting the flavor of the French oak. You're just getting that attribute of the French oak being clean.
Yep.
Interesting. This is enough for me to want to try some different stuff from RD1 for sure. Yeah, it does. I mean, the maple, it's interesting because, and not to throw it out there again necessarily, but we've got this the Watershed here that's available now at their bottle shop that is the maple syrup.
Yep.
So what they do, it's a different process where they take some of their Watershed barrels, they give it to whatever, they transfer it over to a maple syrup company here in Ohio.
Milligan's.
Is that what it is?
I bet it's Milligan's.
Milligan's.
Yeah.
So they then utilize those for maple syrup, which did I give that to you already? No,
it's that bottle.
No, the actual little maple.
Oh yeah. Right.
So they gave a sample as well of the actual maple syrup. So that is something where they do their process, then they kick the barrels back to Watershed.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different.
For the
what
maple
is it?
syrup?
Sweet Waters. That's the brand.
Pass that around. Take a swig of that if you want. Do a little drop in your glass.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah, why not?
Well, so that's why I picked
cocktail.
up the brown, because we were talking about.
Since I was going to give that to you, Nate.
Well, no.
Crack it.
Doing that, it makes me think of when we had Amy and Ann on, and we ran out of the Nocino finish.
Yeah.
But then we had the regular Watershed bourbon and a bottle of Nocino, so we just started pouring bourbon in and then pour Nocino in with it.
Alcohol and alcohol.
That's right.
This would go real nice with some coffee.
So, anyways, that was just going off on a little tangent there, but with them doing this, Nate and I have had samples of the Watershed maple syrup right there, and we can always crack that if you guys want to try that as well as comparison to this in part 2. We can always try that.
Have you guys tried that already?
We did. We had a sample at the distillery when they had us there, but
I was going to say, as far as flavor profile,
so they only finished it in there for, I think it was 3 months. So it's not like this.
Where do they bottle it at?
Cap strength.
It's hotter.
Yeah,
it's hotter. So we'll crack that in the part 2 here. Have a sample of that. But my point was that this bottle from RD1, I'm getting a bit more of the maple syrup flavor.
And I don't know if I like that. I mean, I like that flavor because I like maple syrup. I mean, I do.
It's a little bit more of it's kind of, you've got the port that's more desserty. You got the 2 ports. What are the different port?
Well, you got
categories.
Well, you got ruby, tawny, and white. And rosé.
Ruby and tawny are the ones I'm talking about.
Those are the 2 primary ones. They don't do too many white or rosé ports.
What's the one that's real like syrupy and
so the ruby's that dark red.
Tawny.
Yeah, tawny's the lighter one. The ruby, you get more of those red fruit notes and like plum and stuff like that.
Tawny is caramel, right?
Tawny, yeah, and it ages longer before it's fortified, but that comes in at that lighter color.
I had a 20-year tawny that was delicious, and it was like caramel.
Yeah, so with
that
the
might be what I'm thinking. Is that this is more of
scotch.
This is more of like a after dinner type of a sweet dessert whiskey, if there is such a thing. That's where I'd be at with this.
You don't have this with dessert. This is dessert.
It is.
You have this with dessert, it's too much.
Ports were the first thing paired with cigars.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys knew that.
That brandy was real popular one back in the day.
So I had a brandy.
I think,
we finished.
Movie. I don't know how much accuracy is there. I think it's pretty accurate.
We finished the brandy that I wanted to bring.
Which is brandy.
Yeah.
This brandy was 148 proof.
Oh, that thing was nuts. Listen, that had me lit up.
Yeah, it's Indiana brandy. It was delicious.
Interesting.
It was finished in a bourbon-esque way.
There's a distillery in Indiana, Starlight. Yeah. They do an 11-year bottled in bond brandy.
Yep,
that'd be interesting.
I don't.
Nope, but I plan on making a trip.
Well, I'll pick one up.
It's on that. Starlight's all on the same.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So the bottled in bond brandy.
I haven't had it.
Okay.
I want to put up, this is from previous year, Ray put on there kind of on the aging thing. And I know, Nate, you commented on this with a scotch because the single, what is it? SWS. I forget what that scotch.
The Scotch Whiskey Society or whatever they have there.
So, so they had a series there that did a 12, 15, 18, and 21-year-old. And they seem to agree where this group, whatever, as you went from the 12 to 18, it got better, and then once you hit 21, everyone agreed that it had gone too far, and he said worse than the 15. So obviously they didn't like it as much. I kind of, that's where I was saying, where you were saying about that, but I agree with that. I've had some stuff that is like in a barrel, 20 years, whatever it is, and it's just wood. It's not refreshing. It was good. I mean, I enjoyed it.
And it kind of dries the palate.
It's very dry. Yeah, it's very dry.
And what Ray was referring to, is he talking about something that was all the same mash bill, it's just different age statements?
It's the same brand.
Same brand.
Yeah, same brand.
So they had 12, 15, 18, 21
Saigon Whiskey Society
of that same. I mean, so here in the States, you could go, you could go get, if you really want to spend the money, you can go get, Macallan 12 double cask, 12 sherry cask, 15 double cask. You can do the 18, then the 21, and then if you want to spend $2,800, you can get the 25 here.
Yeah. But what he revealed is that there is a diminishing return eventually.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's flavor profile, right? Yeah. I mean, there can be diminishing return, yes, but I mean, it's also preference, right?
Yeah. Well, so I had a box of cigars from Honduras. Never even heard of this brand. It's 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Still sealed in the box. Opened it up, and you could tell that there were some tobacco leaves that have already lost their flavor.
Yeah. It's always a gamble, right? When you're aging this, whether it be in the spirit side, the cigar side, you're aging the tobacco, then it's a matter of sitting on it as well. We just had at the Tinder Box last event of the season, there was the Romeo Julieta vintage Lotte, where, and you can sell it, right? The story, right? But it was something where this blend had been sitting. I don't know if you saw that one, Ryan, the vintage Lotte from Romeo.
Yeah.
Where they claimed that cigar had been sitting in like a cedar aging room for 6 years after being rolled. I don't know what you're getting out of it. I mean, everyone seemed to like the cigar. But it's one of those things that
higher price point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Higher price point is
but it wasn't ridiculous. Yeah. It's Altadis. So, but I mean, you have to look at this sometimes with the barrels. I feel like in the whiskey world, or these cigars that have been rolled. I mean, Caldwell did the lost and found stuff. Where the story
what were these cigars?
He basically was buying cigars that were rolled that were sitting in a factory or a warehouse somewhere.
And there's a reason why some of these were sitting.
But there could be multiple reasons. There could be something they made it for someone else and it fell through, right? So that they could be sitting on this. Same thing with the Romeo thing, where they do a small production of this stuff where it could have been a project that got scrapped. But obviously the company, I'm not saying that's what that was, but obviously the company is not going to say, well, what happened is that we had a buyer for these, it fell through, and then they kind of sat there, we forgot about them, and then we decided to put a band on them. No, they're going to say, so these have been aging for 6 years. Right. And you ask why, it's like, just smoke it, all right? Don't ask questions, okay? So you want to smoke this thing or not?
Well, can we contend, though, that the aging process can be kind of a myth, too?
Aging of the tobacco or of the cigar?
Tobacco, we've aged this for 13 years. We've aged this for 10 years. Here's why. No
one's checking up on them, right?
And the port that I said that was like 22 years that I tried.
20. You said
20, whatever it was. The combination is what made it 20. So 20-year-old port, but it was like a 14-year and a 6-year combined.
So different spirits, you're gonna have different rules.
20 years.
Yeah, with bourbon, it can't be that way. It has to be.
Bourbon, if you're doing a blend, it's got to be the youngest in there.
Yes.
Yep. Where, what was it? Rum, it can be.
Rum, it can go oldest. either. Rum can go either way.
So 23 rum,
there's
like
not
it could be.
Yeah, there's not a consistent regulation for the rule of that with rum from country to country.
Yeah.
So each country can sit there and say, yeah, you have to put the youngest year. Other ones say, you can throw the oldest. Now the risk you run into one of those where you can put the oldest on there is you could sit there and you could dump 100 barrels into a tank and then sit there and take, this Glencairn glass and fill it with 40-year rum, dump it into that tank, and now you can call it 40-year rum. That's not what that is.
With cigars, I mean, as far as I know, I mean, there's no real certification there. So you can say it's been sitting as long as you want. Obviously, I think in the cigar world, besides the marketing behind it or the story behind it, you want it to be ready. And I remember Miguel Chodel from Crowned Heads, he was talking about in the past being on the show, the myth. Now, granted, if you're running a business poorly, you're going to be pushing things out earlier than they should be, right? But the big thing that they want to come across is that when at least in the new world, the U.S. market, is when they're shipping it to you, it's ready to smoke. They've already done the work. And you have the different people that are buying cigars. They're like, are these fresh? How long have you been sitting on them? Where other people are like, how long have you been sitting on them? Like, I want them to be in your humidor for a while, or in my humidor for a while. That's where there's a lot of different opinions on that. But the big thing is, like, I think like the Rocky Patel 60th. I mean, in the marketing, it's aged tobacco, and then this has been sitting for 2 years. I mean, I know Drew Estate, when they first launched the Liga Privada series with the number 9, the big thing was that it had been sitting for a year. Now, is it still happening that way? I don't know. Because again, trying to get the supply out there, who knows how long they're sitting on it. Right. Will they do it? Fuente was a big thing with the Opus, for a while being such a coveted brand to get.
All 6 years to the tobacco. So
right, but it's got to age for a certain amount. And you hope that the integrity is there from the families that own these places, especially with Micallef, bringing in, Al's integrity. And also like with Gomez Sanchez as a family that's been around for almost 100 years, right? With the you said 1930 something for one of the blends. So, I mean, you're pushing 100 years on that. You hope that there is that. I mean, going back to the Cuban side of things, and I always mess this up, so it's one or the other. Nate, maybe you remember this. I think Miguel might have been the one that said this too. Cuban brands for a long time, they had the Cuban wheel, same cigar, right? They would sell the Cuban wheel, which is basically just like a ribbon around this bundle of cigars, and then they had the dress boxes. And I can't remember which is which. one is ready to smoke and one was intended to age. Like once you buy it or once it's available, it's supposed to age. Do you remember that? You've got the best memory and all this stuff. But do you remember that story where it was like one or the other? The dress box or the Cuban wheel was ready to smoke, and the other one was kind of intended to sit for a little while. I can't remember which is which.
I think the Cuban wheel was the one smoke now, and then the box was like, you put that in your humidor, you put it on a shelf.
Yeah.
And if they're
I wouldn't do very well with that.
If they're using quality cedar, it's going to age with that cedar a little bit.
The cigar is going to change a bit. I mean, just like the whiskey, obviously with the aging, you're going to have that. And the nice thing about the whiskey side, if you guys have ever been to a distillery or anywhere that's aging the barrels, they do that thieving of it to try it, right? Mm-hmm. They have that. They kind of take that little cork out, they thieve it or whatever, and then they try it. Is it ready?
The bung.
Is it what they want, or do you just pop it back in there and you're just like, we're going to put this back where it was and we're going to wait a while?
Well, that's what a lot of distilleries will do is while they're putting stuff out, they'll hold on to some of that stock, and every 4 to 6 months or so, not only will they thief out of it, but they'll try it at cask strength. They'll dilute it down. Mm-hmm. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to find the sweet spot of when that product is the best it can be, and also at a price point that consumers are going to be attracted to.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts there.
Yeah, because you don't want to necessarily sit on a barrel for 20 years and sit there and say, oh, yeah, this is best when it's 20 years old and it's, cask strength. 20-year-old cask strength bourbon is going to be expensive as hell. You're pricing yourself out of the market at that point. So at what point is, this the best thing you can offer to customers at a reasonable price that you're going to move product?
Right. Do you see a change happening in the bourbon whiskey where there's so many small distilleries that are popping up everywhere that are driving the prices lower? To where there's not as much hype.
Most of the small ones that we see tend to not be on those lower price points. Like we see a lot of new, because Steve and I have talked about this over the last 4.5 years. We've seen a lot of newer distilleries where their first offering is coming in at like expensive. That $50 to $70 price point, which, we always joke, it's like, oh, $50. That's like the new entry level price point for these smaller craft distilleries. But then you have, say, a distillery like Green River that was restarted fairly recently.
$39.99.
$34.99 in Ohio for both bourbons and the rye.
They're fantastic.
Oh, we had Aaron Harris, who's their master distiller, on the show.
Yeah.
We had him on when he was down. He was sitting in the grass lawn next to the Rick House when we had him on.
Yeah.
We also had him on when he was the head distiller at Watershed.
Oh, really?
Yep.
But they were also, so Green River part of that, like just like Bardstown too. I mean, like they're making products for so many other places, so they're
80%.
making money.
Oh, really?
Making money off of that as opposed to just their own products. So you can do it. I mean, the bourbon boom is still very much alive. I don't know how long some of this is going to last, but I think that all these smaller operations, if they're sourcing it, obviously there's cost involved there, just like we were talking about with Micallef Cigars, with you guys doing your own stuff. But I don't think that the prices are they're not being overly aggressively competitive where they're trying to undercut. They're basically trying to ride the wave, in my opinion, a lot of the smaller distilleries. And even locally here in Columbus with Watershed, High Bank.
Well, I like High Bank.
Awesome.
But but we've talked about that on the show as well. Like High Bank, they've got your core products, right? Middle West and Watershed, you got your core products. They've creeped up a little bit, but then I've seen like Watershed, I think their bourbon has dropped $5 at times.
Yeah.
Well,
that whiskey cigar cast went.
But they just released that. What was that price though?
It was
$190.
Yeah, 100.
So that's where I was.
The cigar cask.
It was $100. The High Bank.
Yeah,
they've had some in the $150 range and such. That's where I was saying, as long as they're selling it, the limited runs, good for them. But it is difficult as a consumer. It's difficult for a consumer to be able to be like, every time you release one, it's that's where again, Watershed, which is a good friend of the show, that bottle there is $79.99. That's going to be one of their limited ones. They typically don't go over $89, $100, except for the one black.
Marianne that was $150. That was the most expensive one they put out.
So
But to your question, I see a lot. So if you were to go into a liquor store here in Columbus, like what are some of your less expensive, but not necessarily your bottom shelf stuff? It's stuff like Wild Turkey, Evan Williams Bottled and Bond, 1783 from Evan Williams, Old Forester 86 or 100 proof. Those are, I mean, the 100 proof's coming in at $23.
Russell 10-year.
So Russell 10-year just came down $3. It's now $40 in Ohio.
Was it always that much?
It had gone up to $42.99.
Yeah, it used to be 35.
That's what I'm saying. I remember
but like
35.
it's some of these, it's some of the bigger brands.
Yeah,
that's where you see them come in at these entry points that are sub $25. The smaller craft brands, they're not they don't want to put out $20-$25 bottles.
What's your everyday pour?
Whatever's open. No, honestly, I bounce around so much stuff.
It used to be whatever's cheapest, and he has grown from there.
I mean, like if I had everyday bottles, it'd be stuff like Green River, Starlight, the regular Carl T. Huber bourbon. Like I drank a whole bottle of that in a day last year. Well, 9.5 hours.
Okay.
Still, holy shit.
It was a great night. Or it was a great day. Had a fire.
No, I think you said it right the first time.
Yeah. We didn't have a podcast that night.
It's a great night. I mean, day.
Yeah.
It's a good weekend. No.
But go ahead.
I was gonna say mine's 1783 by Evan Williams and Russell's 10-year. Like those price points.
Russell's 10,
bottles.
And then this is Will's best product.
Can't find it everywhere though.
I love Johnny Drum. Love Johnny Drum.
Do you? On a regular basis.
Do you have it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Well, actually, just had someone come in yesterday and buy the last 4 bottles.
Love Johnny Drum.
But yeah, I mean, now, so a lot of the Willet stuff.
What was your price for that?
Well, it's the same in Ohio. Everywhere.
44.
I think it's $44.99.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be so much cheaper.
It used to be cheaper.
$30. When AJ brought it on the show, he got it in Kentucky. It was $30.
That's what I bought it for.
Yeah.
It was 29 and some change, I think, whatever it was.
I'll find it for 32 in Kentucky right now.
Okay. What Johnny Drum?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I remember it. I saw it in Ohio. It's like 40.
So that's based on what the distributor's charging the state of Ohio. Because so last year, the only stuff from Willet that you could get was Noah's Mill, Rowan's Creek, Pot Still, and the 4-year rye. Those were the only things. And
you keep it.
And they came out once a quarter. So last year in Ohio, those 4 Willet products came out once a quarter. And that was it. This year, they're no longer allocated. They're no longer limited. We can order as many cases as we want. We've got the Johnny Drum. We've got the Old Bardstown, 2 different Old Bardstowns. We've got the Pure Kentucky from them as well. And so there's a lot more offerings now available from them in the state of Ohio.
What was your guys' thoughts of the Travelers?
Oh, we did that recently.
Oh, did you? Okay.
It was so overhyped, and it was okay.
So I thought it was a solid $40 bottle. I thought that
for the price, it was great.
Now it's $35.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
It went down?
It went down earlier this year.
Traveler, I will say this, and we'll go on to the round this out here. But Traveler,
what's his
Chris
name?
Stapleton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That one was one, and I've said this before on the show, and I think I'm absolutely right.
Yes.
That one for a $40 bottle, blended whiskey, it was a good bottle. It was a good everyday drinker. If you like it, great. If you think it's okay, that's great. It's $40 right now, $35. When it first hit, all the flippers thought that it was going to be the next Buffalo Trace because it had that name on there, right, as part of the blend. And everyone thought that was going to be something they could make money off of, and they were going to turn it into currency when they realized that that was just the first shipment. People were buying like it by the case because there's no limit. So people were buying 4 or 6 bottles, whatever it was. And then they realized that they couldn't flip it because the next batch came through and the next shipments came through. And then everyone got on, shot themselves in the foot and said, this is trash. And they're sitting on bottles and they can't flip it. So they absolutely killed themselves. And I think more the egos were hurt more than their flavor profiles were hurt. Their palates were not hurt. They thought it was fine. They just thought that they were going to be like, all right, so $40, I can probably sell for like 80. I got 6 bottles, so that'll do this and all that stuff. And then you're like, you're an idiot. All right, so fucking drink the bourbon. That's what I thought. Drink the whiskey.
I thought it was pretty tasty.
I thought it was fine for $40. I think it was, I mean, geez, that's under the average right now.
Yep.
So that's what I thought.
Well, last Friday we actually had one bottle that came it went from a $96 bottle to a $75 bottle in Ohio.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's round this out here, boys. Rating time: whiskey, cigar, and pairing. Jeremy, I don't know if you are familiar with this part of the show, but we give a 10 being the best rating on your own scale, but 10 is the best, and this is going to be the whiskey, which is the RD1 small batch with the oak and maple finished. The cigar, which is going to be the Micallef Red, and the pairing, the two of them. So, Jeremy, go ahead. Start it off.
Whiskey,
3 different ratings.
Whiskey, I'll give 7.5, or the bourbon. What is it actually? It's
bourbon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
About 7.5.
Okay.
It's too sweet for every day for me, but I do enjoy it. It's above a 90 proof, so 7.5. Cigar for me, this is 8.5, 9. And then together, 8.
Okay. Ryan, go ahead there.
Let me start with the whiskey.
It says on the screen, so yeah, I mean.
All right, that's great. I'll give that honestly, I'll give that a 6. I'm not a big fan of the bottle. I'm still sitting on, a decent amount here. It's just
of your second pour.
No, it's my first pour.
No, it's your second. You forgot, but I gave you the bottle. You poured again.
No,
it's called 1.5. Let's just agree, 1.5. You topped it off. All right.
All right.
We'll top off.
All right. Yeah.
Not start a whole war here.
Yeah, it's just not for me. It's too sweet. It's too much. It's too rich. Again, like I said earlier, it's lacking that Kentucky hug or that feel that I'm looking for.
Which you would expect for something that was coming in around 100 proof?
No. But I'm probably not going to pick up that bottle knowing that, what it is and being proofed at that. I'm probably not going to take the gamble for $50.
You a pancake guy?
Love pancakes.
Yeah. How about this?
Well, I like
Sunday morning brunch.
It goes
and,
waffles first.
Waffles
first. Thank you.
The texture,
and then French toast, and then pancakes.
Pancakes. French toast is a different category. First of all, waffles are. Yeah, I know it's a breakfast food. I'm just saying, like, it's all carbs and sugar. But I'm saying waffles and pancakes, I think are the same thing.
Depends. If it's Belgian waffles, it's different.
All right.
Love waffles. But
Point being is, imagine drinking this, nice Sunday brunch, Erica, your lovely wife, is having a mimosa. Is she a mimosa girl?
Yeah,
of course she is. So it's like, she's having a mimosa. And you're like, all right, so I'm gonna have some waffles as your number one, right? So you fix up how many? 2 waffles? You like stack them, or you like kind of put them
3 or 4,
stagger them 3 or 4.
Yeah, I can eat.
All right.
Depends on if they're Eggo or Waffle House.
So, and then you pour some maple syrup with a little dash of this on top of those waffles, then a little dash in your glass. Still 6.
Well, he is the one who said, put that in some coffee.
I think this
is Erica there too?
Yeah, she's having the most.
Yeah,
I forgot the beginning of the story.
Give it a 7.
See, it's all about the atmosphere of where you're drinking the experience.
Just like smoking those beach cigars after 11
That's right.
All right. Okay, so between 6 and 7 on the bottle.
Depending on what day it is.
Depending on the day, yeah. If Erica's there, it's a 7.
She makes everything better for you.
Everything better. The cigar by itself, I'm gonna give it an 8.5, 9. I'd say 8.5. I love the cigar. It's in my daily rotation. I think for the price point, it's hard to beat. There's not much on the market for MSRP of $7, $8 for the Toro size. Yep. That can compete with the complexity, with the flavor. The strength is perfect for me. Construction's phenomenal. I've never had a bad one. They've all been consistent. I probably smoked through a couple boxes of them at this point. I think the cigar by itself is fantastic. The pairing, I would give it a 7 again, because I'm not big on the bottle. But
if you were smoking at that brunch, though,
I might give it an 8.
I'm just
that
saying.
picture's nice, man. I love Sunday morning breakfast. Sunday morning breakfast is my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the best.
You and carbs is your favorite. Yeah. This guy eats.
Oh, I know.
Oh no, yeah, there was. Yeah,
he'd be 300 pounds if I ate like him.
He used to go to Cinnabon before his shift and get like one of the maple Cinnabons, and then
with the caramel drizzle.
Oh
yeah, that was great.
Like 1,500 calorie.
Oh my goodness.
Cinnamon roll. He'd sit there and eat it in 10 minutes, and then we used to actually have an over/under.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
10 minutes is light work.
No. We had an over/under before Ryan sits there and goes, "Oh man, I feel like shit." It was always under 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nate, how about you for your ratings here? The whiskey, the cigar, and the pairing here.
So the whiskey. All right, whiskey. I'm going to go 6.5.
Man.
I don't necessarily mind the sweetness. I think it's a little too overbearing. And the thing I don't like about this bottle the most is if you know what the mash bill is of this bottle, you're sitting there going, where? Like you see the mash bill and you're like, where's that flavor coming from? Like you don't, because you don't get it. I think the French oak and the maple syrup stay finishing that they're doing is what gives this bottle all of its features. That's where you're getting all the caramel, the brown sugar, that clean finish. It's all coming from that. You don't, I would want to taste
that's what I was going to ask
regular product.
Oh yeah.
And see what the regular mash bill tastes like.
Do they have a regular, like just a straight?
He said that's
whiskey?
the green label.
That's the green label.
Yeah.
That's just a straight bourbon whiskey.
And I'll be honest, that's my least favorite of the three.
Okay.
So
maybe that's why they're finishing it like this.
I mean, this does not taste like a high rye bourbon. It's 70 corn, 21 rye, 9% malted barley. But I'm sitting there drinking this going, where's the rye? I don't taste any of that whatsoever. And even being 70% corn, like you don't taste any of that corn whiskey flavor that's there. And then the malted barley, that just gets lost in the maple syrup barrel. So I would want to drink the regular product to see how that is and then see, because then you'd be able to determine just how much flavor the finishing is doing to this product. I think they may be finishing it too long with the staves, and that's why that maple syrup is that it's just so overwhelming. I don't necessarily mind it because I like waffles with maple syrup too. But
let me paint you a picture here. No, go ahead.
I think you would like the red label though. The Ambrita or the
Ambruana. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure I would.
Yeah.
I'm sure I would. Like I said, that one sometimes tastes like apple pie.
All right. What about the cigar?
The cigar, I'm gonna go 7.5 on the cigar. Solid smoke. What's interesting with mine is I'd started to get a little bit of a run on one side, and then it completely evened out on its own. I didn't have to touch it up or anything. I relit because I was talking. But like the construction's been fine. It's been great on the cigar to be able to even out like that on its own. For me, like I didn't get any of that sweetness that Ryan talked about, or even you mentioned it too, Jeremy. I didn't get any of that sweetness on the cigar by itself. I like Cameroon, and like I said, it reminded me of Cameroon, but with a little bit more oomph to it, a little bit more strength. But it was, for me, very earthy. It was a drier smoke. Wasn't a bad flavor, but for me personally, there wasn't a whole lot of complexity to what's there. It is what it is. It's a solid smoke, and it's a great price point.
Yeah.
It's a great price. If you're throwing price point into rating the cigar,
I think you got to add that into the.
Yeah, I think you could bump it up half a point to a full point just based on the price point.
Would you rate it
7.5?
All right.
But no, it's a solid smoke, and I learned recently, like I've kind of had a self-reflection moment where I realized, like, why is it everything I'm rating, whether whiskey or cigars, it always seems like I'm starting as 8 at my starting point.
Ooh.
And I think that's being a little too generous, so that's why I've kind of started to pull back a little bit on some of my ratings, not being the Russian judge, but just not everything is a 8 to 9.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's deceiving when you do that.
Now the pairing, I'll give the pairing an 8. The sweetness I don't get from the cigar that the two of you got from it, drinking the whiskey and then having the cigar, that sweetness along with the earthiness of the cigar, that I think is a good pairing.
Yeah,
those two going together because they're on opposite sides of the flavor wheel. So those two come together, kind of counterbalance and help offset and smooth out one another.
Did you do your shit?
No, I haven't.
I wasn't sure.
You're up.
I was around the corner.
Appreciate using the outhouse.
Yeah,
but
I had to use the leaf, so
it's just say. I mean, let the dog sleep. So the RD1 here. I get what you guys are saying. I think for what the intention of this bottle is, I think they did a good job with it. It's borderline flavored whiskey. It's got a lot to it.
Yeah.
But I do think that the finishing game is a tricky one. And Nate, you looked it up, and they're throwing the staves in there as opposed to flipping barrels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So doing the different pours and barrels, you're going to get different things. You can do that where you finish it and it's just a hint of it, or it changes the complexity of it. I think the intention here with this one was to really, and they put it oak first and then maple, I think, on the bottle.
Yeah, they do the French
oak and maple barrels. And it's interesting you say that they did the stave process, because it says on here double finished in oak and maple barrels.
So I went to their website.
No, I'm not calling you out on that. I'm just saying I'm calling them out on that. The way they label the bottle, and then even in the description on the back, which they really should not have that clear so you can read it easier. I'm just going to say that right
Is
there.
that right?
Absolutely.
Well, you can read it when there's whiskey in it.
Still difficult. I just don't think that was good font color choice there.
You're getting old. I can read it.
You can't read it like that. There's no way you can read it from here.
There's no way. I can't either.
Yeah, no. You can barely read that skew on there. But I think the whiskey, I'm going to give it a 7.5, because price points average for this type of a product, in my opinion, 59, right? You said.
Mm-hmm.
This is, it's good for what it is. This is you have it in your bar, and I wouldn't say you give this to your bourbon collector enthusiast. This is something that like my neighbor across the street, Matt, right? So he likes whiskey. A lot of times he'll do different bourbons, but a lot of times he'll put it in like either Coke or something like that. But he does still try it when he comes over. If I poured him a glass of this neat, or even maybe a cube in there, he'd enjoy it as is.
Yep.
I really think that, because it takes a little bit of the edge off with that what I said earlier, with that kind of syrupy type of viscosity at first, and you get that. I think that you're gonna take a sip of that. You're like, oh, that's good. You know what I mean? It's like I said, a little bit of that dessert quality there. So I do like that. The Micallef Red, I bring this up a lot, but I do think that this is a cigar that the price point brings it up a notch on the scale. If this was coming in at $15, which is almost double the price, it's a different score. I think just objectively, no price, I'm going to give the cigar probably a 7.5, just objectively. But when you introduce the price point and you're smoking it, now all of a sudden, I mean, you're kicking it up almost a full. I give it an 8.5 with that, with the price point involved. That is a factor today more than ever. But objectively, I would say it's a 7.5, because it's a good cigar, medium plus strength. You've got some good flavors going on.
Did you get any sweetness from it?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't. But then again, when you introduce, okay, this is also an $8 cigar, you're like, holy shit, I thought this was like a $12 cigar. Yeah. That's where I think it
that's why I said bump it up half point or full point.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with you on that.
It seems to be 8.5.
Yeah. The pairing, not the best, because I do get, like we talked about, the flavors coming out of the cigar, the sweetness and everything with the maple characteristics there. It's good. I think cigar to whiskey, the whiskey, you still get a lot of that flavor. I think going from the sweetness of the maple flavors, the maple syrup flavors of the bottle, back to the cigar, it's not doing the cigar any favors. They stand up to each other, but I don't think they complement each other going both ways, in my opinion.
I think the best compliment would be that Johnny Drum.
Well, I still got some cigar left, so we'll start that off, and then we'll crack the watershed to try a little bit different maple finished product as well for part 2. But yeah, I mean, they're both decent products. I think the cigar is outshining the whiskey, though. I will say that.
Oh, by far.
very interested to see what Micallef comes out with when they bring out the green. In my opinion, I'm going to put my vote in on the green. If you guys want, we'll start a poll. Be great if we could get that on like FanDuel or something like that.
Can we get a graphic for like the hot dogs? You know how they have it on the scoreboard?
If you guys want to contribute to patreon.com,
there we go.
Podcast, we can get a graphic guy in here. Maybe a green screen and stuff like that. Yes. Yeah, it's like the Micallef cigars with different color.
We could get costumes
running behind us, or just we can get mascots.
Spirit Halloweens are probably on
get
sale.
Some interns on the Bourbon and BS podcast here. But that being said, we're gonna round out part 1. We'll take a quick break. We'll stay live. But guys, cheers! Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Jeremy, thank you for bringing this cigar in the bottle here. And
your glass empty.
You can't cheers with an empty glass. You got to pour a little bit in there. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
All right, share. Don't give it all. All right, cheers, guys. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Stay tuned for part 2. We're going to learn a little bit more about Jeremy and everyone else. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
What is that? You cheers and then you hit the table.
It's good luck.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
It's Irish.
Is it Irish?
I learned it at a pub.
Yeah.
In Columbus.
Must be.
Yeah, that's right.
I did too.
So, to what you were saying earlier, Steve, on their website,
use the outhouse,
in this double finish, we took French oak staves, first finish, that were steeped in a patented process of pressure, oxygen, time, and temperature.
Okay.
With maple syrup, second finish. The molecular transfusion into the base fibers of the wood is wonderfully artistic and scientifically intense. Consistency is the driver here for flavor and texture. After RD1 Spirit Kentucky Straight Bourbon ages for 4+ years, we inserted the French oak and maple stave wood into the barrel for additional aging. The end result is the best stack of pancakes you've ever had.
I mean,
that's on their website.
Yeah. We were at the Watershed dinner, and I forget which. I think the Nocino one is the last one that's coming out of the series, correct, Nate?
Yes, that's next. That one's going to be lottery.
And we were doing this dinner, Ryan, at Watershed, and it's like a 3-course meal, and they also did the 4 different finishing, right? Mm-hmm. And I had, what was the dessert? Did you have the same one, right?
I think I saw a picture of the menu that you guys posted on Instagram, right? Yeah.
But it was I forget what it was, but it was kind of like a cake type of a thing. And they put was Dr. Pepper or Coke on there.
Oh yeah.
Nate.
Dr. Pepper or Coke for the syrup on the cake.
On the dessert. Remember that?
I don't remember.
Anyways, I took it at the end of it, and I had like this much left of the Nocino barrel finished whiskey, and I was like, "Wow, this is going right on top." Delicious.
It's awesome.
Delicious. So,
that's cool that you guys are able to get out.
You empty there?
Yeah, I'm empty.
All right. Crack that. This is the Watershed Fall Finishing Series. We'll each have a little bit of pour of that, and then we have to post some stuff on that. But this is very different. This is not crazy. It's 109 point something proof, so it's a little bit high. But this is only aged in the maple syrup barrels for 3 months. I'm going to pass it to Jeremy there. We'll start part 2 with that.
I don't know why I capped it. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Give you the full experience.
If you guys are listening live right now, we only got a few listeners right here. But if you go back and listen to the video, this is something that is available now at the bottle shop in the Grandview area of Columbus, Ohio, only at their bottle shop. And this is the 3rd bottle of the Fall Finishing Series. Pass this over to Nate as he takes it, kicking it back over there. And again, for those listening, I'm going to remind you, share, like, comment, review, and subscribe on all the formats you enjoy listening to the show. And tell your friends, family, and any strangers that you might meet.
Had to remove a member there for a second.
What happened?
Oh, tonight?
Yeah.
I did earlier.
I removed the comments too.
So okay.
Just someone sitting there going, "Hey, you should check out this page."
Oh, it's scammers.
Same shit.
Yeah,
it's scammers.
But like the one earlier that Steve did was from video from 2 weeks ago. So it's like,
yeah. All right, you guys ready?
Let's
Did you try this yet?
Not yet.
Get started here.
So mapley.
Is it?
Wow.
Compared to the other one?
Yeah. Did you know that one
This is
side
a
of your
barrel finished at
nostril is
100.
Sweet and one spicy?
I just know the one I can breathe through, the other I can't.
Yeah, I can't either. I hate that. I hate that.
I didn't know that. Seems like an old wives' tale.
No, try it. So close one, stiff it. The other one, the one spicy. The right side's always spicy.
My right
By the
side's
way.
spicy.
Yeah, it's always spicy.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Why are you laughing?
Who's laughing?
He's happy.
Jeez.
He's happy.
I was right.
You were right.
You got one right.
I got them both right.
Welcome back to the Bourbon BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 328, part 2, Beyond the BS. We've got Jeremy Ellis in from Micallef Cigars and Ryan Newman from around Royal Cigar Lounge. No, on the other side of Columbus. Check them out as well. Obviously, one of our sponsors, where this is based out of Tinder Box at Easton, northeast side of Columbus at Easton Town Center, and then Royale's over by the casino, which is a great location over there on the west side. You guys got, I would say arguably, but I would say the best actual like lounge in the city. So if you guys are looking at the places,
cigar bar,
the only cigar bar, but definitely a high end lounge over there on the west side. So love that. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us as well, and you guys setting this up, you and Jeremy, and then Nate Hale, obviously, on the other side of them. And we are going to be talking a little bit about life, obviously, in part 2. First part we did, we featured, and I'm still smoking. I think everyone's still chipping away at the Micallef Red.
I'm done with mine.
You're done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Micallef Red is the newest cigar from Micallef of their color series, and they will be releasing another one this next year in 2025.
2 more, actually.
2 more.
One of the PCA, one later.
So the green and the white, as we think,
or orange.
Green, and it's not going to be purple.
It's going to be purple. I'm going to say purple. Nah. I'm going to say purple's in there.
You already hit red. That's going to be the most popular cigar color on the band. Ooh. No, you can't do gold because you already have gold on the band.
So you can go all gold.
Nah.
Go with a little bit of.
Read it. But yeah, so anyways, we're going to be finishing that up. We also were sipping on the RD1. This is going to be the small batch finished in the oak and maple barrels. Talked about that. So check out part 1 if you guys are listening on the audio, and part 2. Click back to part 1. We talked to all things Micallef and bourbon, obviously, as well. So right now we are starting this part off with, we are sipping on the, oddly enough, the Watershed. This is the fall finishing series, the number 3 bottle of the 4, and this is the one that's finished in the maple syrup barrels. So this is going to be related. You guys are sipping on. What are your initial thoughts of that one?
It has a lot more warmth than the RD1 for sure. On the smell, it's very, very mapley.
Yeah,
but not on the palate as much.
You don't get it on the palate?
I
do, but it's still.
I get it on the finish.
I do too. I get it on the finish.
There's completely different experience than the RD1.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of the maple.
It's very good.
Yeah. It's a nice bottle.
I don't know. It's so good. I definitely like it better than the RD1, but it's still, there's that sweetness there. Yeah. It's just too much.
Well, but like I said,
we liked the RD1 clearly.
I personally,
it's going down.
I get that maple on the
taking
finish.
That back with you.
I get the maple on the finish, which would make sense for when we had Ryan Benrick, the cask manager at Watershed, on. What he said he wanted to do with the fall finishing series this year is still wanted the main distillate to be the highlight, and then the finishing barrel that be more on the finish or more secondary flavors and not the main goal.
Yeah,
I think they hit it with this. I think they first release, which was the port barrel finish. I still think the apple brandy, the apple brandy barrel is what shines through on that one. Not
it does.
And last Wednesday I had batch 3, 4, and 5.
3 bottles.
I didn't drink all 3 bottles. I had a pour from each bottle.
No one was accusing you of that.
This is the best Watershed product I've had.
So yeah, so don't sleep on.
They've got some.
What he's had now. That
from what I've had,
I was going to say that's where I was about to say this is that wherever you guys are at, if you're in the Columbus area, obviously, but anywhere you guys are at, don't sleep on your local distilleries. I would absolutely encourage you to try them. Go to a lot of times you can go to your local distilleries and sample by buying a drink at the bar. If they have a bar, they can go to tastings, but don't sleep on them because there's a lot of good stuff out there and they're getting very creative. Like this fall finishing series. This is the second year they're doing this fall finishing series with Watershed. And like I said, when I say don't sleep on them, give them a shot because and also as they put out new products, Watershed, for example, their bourbon was not as well received because it was so different.
Was it that 4 years?
Well, this was the original 5-grain
mash bill. Yeah, so they were unique, right? They did it for their reasons, and now they've redone their entire core line. And then obviously, just like a lot of I say local distilleries, smaller distilleries, they're expanding what they're doing with the limited release products as well as some of the more regular release products as they expand their operations. Just give them a shot, right? You know what I mean? It's not going to be the same thing coming out of necessarily Kentucky all the time, but there's good and bad. I think I relate it to the cigar industry where you have the years and years ago, Cuban cigars were the thing. The best thing to happen in the cigar industry, if you're a cigar enthusiast, in my opinion, is the fact that the Cuban embargo in the U.S. it launched. Fast forward 60 plus years later, that now you have cigars like the Micallef Red, where you've got a San Andreas Habano wrapper, you've got a Pennsylvania broadleaf binder, you've got San Andreas and Nicaraguan tobacco in the filler. That would never have happened if Cuban on top of Cuban on top of Cuban was all that was being cultivated, and bad circumstances, but the families fled Cuba for those reasons they did, and they transplanted themselves elsewhere. And then fast forward as well, that there's tobacco being grown in the U.S., Mexico, Brazil, countless countries that are growing tobacco. And there's a reason that there are so many different cigars. And now there's so many different bourbons and spirits out there that if these booms didn't happen and these things didn't happen in history, that we would not be experiencing what we're experiencing. Definitely don't sleep on those things cigar wise. If you see a small, like a Micallef, never heard of it, you see it on the shelf, you know what, especially for the price point of the Micallef Red, $8 MSRP before tobacco tax, wherever state you're in, it's tough to just not try something like that.
No, I agree.
Branch out, give yourself, you might find a favorite.
What's that Fave 5 sampler running at Tinder Box?
$32.95
for 5 cigars.
5 cigars. You got the black, red, blue, the A, and
Herencia.
And
a
pre-made sampler.
That's less than $7 a stick.
Is that pre-made? I made it. Actually, my wife and I made it.
Yes, you guys came into the shop that day.
It's a made sampler, pre-made to the customer.
Yeah. So it is. If you fill out the Fave 5 too, you get a chance of winning a $50 gift card to your shop of choice.
See, I didn't even know that. I blame the rep for that.
That's
terrible.
my fault
For me.
Terrible.
But
Really
so I live in Grove City.
Staffs.
In Grove City, Ohio, we do they have a bourbon tasting, and Watershed comes out to that. But this is still probably the best I've had from them, in my opinion.
Where's that held at?
Grove City, Ohio.
No, I used to live in Grove City. Where?
Behind the I think it used to be where the library used to sit. So in the field behind the downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice area.
Gotta like an event held in a field.
It's great.
Yeah, I like that. Just like
does the field have a name?
Backwoods Fest.
No,
you been there?
I don't know the name.
Just the field.
The Backwoods Fest.
It's grass.
That's real nice.
You'll see people in grass.
They now have a stage.
The same one they used to do LARPing at.
What? The Backwoods Fest?
No,
so
field.
Oh,
so Nate, you're smoking the Micallef Blue.
Mm-hmm.
That pairs well with Scotch.
Okay.
There's Scotch up there.
I've got a Nick Offerman Lagavulin at home.
There's that one up there from I think it was Tim Dodge or someone behind the Weller.
Oh yeah, Glenn Goy.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't like scotch, so
you can't have any.
It's a different ball game.
It
Definitely
tastes like throw up.
It's not. No, it just tastes weird.
Throw up.
It tastes weird.
Don't talk about it, man. All right. So part 2. This is where we kind of dive off on a different tangent than most podcasts when it comes to cigars and whiskey. I do appreciate a lot of podcasts out there that they kind of, a lot of banter, a lot of just like off topic stuff, which is great. I love that. This is something that we've done from the beginning where we have more of a life topic. I have it up there, wearing more than one hat. Tried to reword it because I think I confused
Don't
people in the garage.
Why are you always? Why am I?
I'm gonna all the people in the garage. There was some confusion. The first topic, but
a whole lot of handsome.
There's very handsome.
A lot of good beards.
Great.
A lot of good beards,
man. A lot of great beards.
Like I hope you guys are watching this on a big screen.
I was hoping
listening to it with a great speaker system. Nice subwoofer out there, and but
really?
Yes, right.
Yes,
yeah. Vibrate the floors. All right, calm down. No, and Richie Riot's out there. Big Nate Hale.
I don't know.
Big Nate Hale. Big dog.
Just everyone's hashtag Team Nate, like Jonathan Herring. He should start a buyjack.com and just that's all it is. Hashtag Team Nate. He's gonna make way more than we're making.
He made it. He had a shirt made up with it.
Yeah, he did. It's a custom one. Yeah, it didn't make the cut. Wearing more than one hat. So Jeremy being on the show, and obviously you guys as well. Everyone does different things, but trying to think of a topic for the guest of honor being Jeremy Ellis from Micallef Cigars. I first met Jeremy as a customer. He was coming up to Tinder Box at Easton, hanging out at Fido Irish Pub next door, where a lot of this is all based out of. Honestly, that's how I got involved in the industry, because found the same kind of duo there, and been working at myself Tinder Box Easton for going on 12 years. And Jeremy came in a handful of years ago and smoking cigars, getting into it. He kind of mentioned in the first part, but when I first met him, he was obviously a cool guy, very chill, interested in cigars, trying different stuff. And then he'd pop over and he'd be doing kind of like work, hanging out, lunches over at Fido, which is the neighbor Tinder Box Irish Pub. And he was is a pastor. And that's how I knew him. It was just kind of like when you like describe, like, hey, Jeremy, he comes in here usually during the day, pastor, he hangs out at Fido. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like kind of younger guy, he's a pastor and all this stuff. Oh yeah, I know him. That was Jeremy in the cigar community, in my opinion, around Columbus.
Yeah.
So now fast forward, the Jeremy that I know, and I know you and Ryan are close. You guys have spent a lot of time together, hanging out at Royale and everything like that, because you would bounce around in different shops around Columbus, Ohio. And so now I know Jeremy as the Micallef cigar rep. He's now in this industry, still a pastor, and also by way of the pastor life, you've branched off into a different part of, I think, the ministry and council, if I'm not off base here, in the prison system in the Columbus area as well. So that's where the topic, kind of like framing this for everyone, we're going to learn a little bit more about Jeremy Ellis, but also kind of see where the conversation goes with this wearing more than one hat, because I'm of the opinion a lot of times someone's identity is from someone's perspective, it is, you're a cigar customer, you're a pastor, you're, to people and you visit and work with in the prison system. Everyone has a different viewpoint of who you are in life. And it could be you're a family guy because you're also a family guy. You're enthusiast about a sports team. You're enthusiast about, a certain thing. In this garage, we're all basically, to someone in that you've experienced in life, they've experienced you, you're the cigar guy. You're the whiskey guy. You're, whatever it might be. Everyone's got that.
We've got
right?
that over the years.
So everyone's got that impression on people in life. But we all know that everyone has they wear more than one hat. I feel like in the job world, you have a position, as an occupation, but even at your job, a lot of times you are wearing multiple hats. Yeah. You're not just doing what the title says. If you describe to someone what your day-to-day is, it's going to be very, very diverse. And I think that when you factor in your home life, your family life, your personal life, you factor in your hobbies, there's a lot of hats being worn. So that's kind of where I kind of want to frame this conversation and kind of kick it over to you, Jeremy, and kind of tell us about you.
Yeah. Well, we'll start with the prison work. So for the 5 years until I took this job for Micallef, I taught classes in prisons across the state of Ohio. And that's where we met. I moved to
I was
Columbus.
Not in prison at that time.
In 2009,
that's how you met.
Yeah. In 2019, I moved to Grove City area, took on a church that I was pastoring, but I was already doing prison work in Ohio. And
were you a pastor before that? Were you ordained before?
Yeah. So I've been a pastor. I started in youth ministry in 2001.
Okay.
And then I planted a church in Steubenville, Ohio.
Okay.
Big Red football. If you follow high school football.
Dean Martin was from there, I think. Right?
Dean Martin was from there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fuck football in that case. Dean Martin, claim to fame right there, man.
Yeah.
Man.
So if you're familiar with the Big Red rape case, it's a documentary on Netflix. So either way.
Are you in it?
No, no. But so yeah, I planted a church there, pastored it for 10 years, and then we took on a church here in Grove City, Ohio.
What was the church in Grove City?
In Grove City, it was called Crosslink Community Church. We renamed it this year to Restored Church. Restored.
Yep. How big is the congregation?
180.
Good size.
So, so the prison work I've done where I taught like leadership classes, fatherhood, healthy relationships, reentry, employment readiness skills, that kind of stuff. So did that for 5 years.
It's wild. You did that for 5 years before all this.
Yeah. So when I'm
still doing work with the prison system, yeah.
My work with the prison system right now is I'm on the governing board for a local CBCF, which is it's a community-based prison, essentially. And I meet with them about once a quarter. So
it's one prison.
Yeah, one prison.
Okay.
But I've been in every prison in the state of Ohio. So which
working,
was
right?
Working. Yeah, I'm not.
Do you have any criminal record?
I've never been in prison outside of work.
Answer my question.
Do you have a criminal record, sir?
No criminal record.
Okay. No misdemeanors?
Speeding tickets.
I feel like you're already lying. So that opening the door here.
No.
You lie about the first part, right?
Yeah.
They're like, no, I don't have a criminal record.
So,
but I do have speeding tickets. Like, okay.
So I don't even have that.
My favorite movie is Con Air.
With
ever?
Really?
Yeah.
Not Top Gun?
Who's your favorite character in Con Air?
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, like
that's not
Cameron Poe.
Yeah, like that.
Like, okay, so that's my favorite movie. My favorite TV series is Prison Break.
Steve Buscemi's character, that's his favorite.
Yeah,
he was good in that movie.
Prison Break. Have you seen?
I never got into Prison Break.
Yeah,
I just
the first season is get past the first 8 episodes and it'll be the best season you ever watched.
No.
Yes.
You cannot introduce a TV series and like it's always like people try to get you on a TV series and it might be good, but they always try to get you on a TV series by saying it's slow at first. You just have to give it 4 episodes.
Okay.
I'm like, they're hour-long episodes.
It's terrible.
Anyway,
42 minutes without commercials.
Sorry, you brought this up. Then you get to season 3.
And you're severely disappointed.
And you're like, well, season 3 is not as good. So it's a little slow, but then season 4 is really good. I'm like, do I have to watch season 3? Well, yeah, you have to watch it so you enjoy season 4.
The first season of Prison Break was one of the best shows ever written. Either way, Prison Break, Con Air. My dad did time when he was...
There it is. That's what I was waiting to see. Like, where's the tie in here?
When he was 20 years old, he sold drugs to 2 undercover cops, and he did 2 years.
Okay.
And so my dad,
really,
and so I grew up hearing kind of his story, and he would talk like prison back then was different. Prison now it's adult daycare. They have TVs, they have tablets.
Sure.
Like it's completely different. But back then, he would tell me about the riots that happened, the tear gas, all this, and I'm like, I want nothing to do with prison.
Where was he at? In Ohio?
Indiana.
Indiana.
Yeah, and so, but hearing his story, like, I don't know if it was hearing that my entire life, I was intrigued about that side of things, but I never wanted to be a part of that side of things.
You hear horror stories about prison, and it's not like, you know where I want to be when I grow up.
Not, and so, but the first day I walked into a prison to teach, it just felt right, because I got to deal with people who wanted to be helped. I've been a pastor for almost a decade and a half, in youth ministry 2 decades, and in the church circles there's this facade that everyone's okay, and there's this fakeness that's involved with that.
That's fair.
In fact, I would argue that most people that attend church deserve an Oscar award because they do a really good job putting on this persona that's not true. And so I got so tired of dealing with people who needed help but would refuse to ask for that help. And so when I walked into prison, I started to realize, and these are people who are broken. They needed help. They wanted help. And it just felt right.
Okay.
And so for 5 years, I taught classes, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
How does one get into that? I mean, so you were a youth minister, right? So that's something that, is there a denomination to the church that you were involved with at that time?
So I went to Grace College, which is part of the Grace Brethren denomination.
Yeah.
And so, but I was mostly Southern Baptist or non-denom.
Okay. And then, yeah, okay. The first prison you went into, what was the level of security there?
The first one was level 2.
Level 2.
So the people in my classroom, so for the first 3.5 years, I dealt with guys who were 9 months to the gate. So they could be anywhere from, 9 months to 3 weeks to leaving.
It was prison or jail?
Prison.
Okay.
So I was dealing with guys who were on their way out, but they could have been like in there for domestic violence, for drugs, for trafficking, for even murder. I remember taking a guy home.
Gotta watch how you say that.
This is true. I
remember trying to keep you on toes here, right? Coach you through the way you described the situation.
Dropping a guy off.
Picture, man. Paint that picture.
No, I'm not painting that picture. Jeremy's handling himself.
Thank you.
You got it.
Yeah. So Noble Correctional, which is down in close to Marietta, Ohio. Yeah. Guy was down for 18 years for it was classified as manslaughter, but it was a child that died while he was the guardian at home.
Okay.
And served 18 years and needed a ride from Noble to Wooster, Ohio.
That's a drive.
Yeah. And so I said, I'll take you home. So I pick him up, and the time frame that he was down, like, there's so much change that happened in 20 years. So you have, like, he's never had a McDonald's McGriddle.
Oh, those are amazing.
So that tastes like the RD1.
That maple syrup.
That's exactly it.
I'm telling you.
Get that with the steak. Get that with the steak.
Yeah.
With the steak.
So I went to pick him up from Noble Correctional. He came out, and I had a bag of like 4 sausage McGriddles from McDonald's, so he could have them. And then we're driving down on 77, going north to Wooster, and my wife's car, which is what we were in, had like the mirrors where it would light up if the car's next to you.
Yeah. Blind
spot one.
Yeah.
Blind spot monitor.
He's never seen that before. And so he keeps looking over at it, and he looks over at me. He's
what
like,
is that?
What is that? And I had to explain that to him. But these are things that these guys have never seen. And so he was in
18 years.
18 years. 18 years. And so, like, just to be able to help men who have been in their worst moments.
That's incredible.
And so, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of the reason why I got out of it into the cigar industry is because I wanted a job that wasn't emotionally exhausting.
I get it.
Like, there's no such thing as a cigar emergency.
Of
like you could call me up and say, "Hey, Jeremy, I need cigars." I'm like, "I'll get to you next week."
Okay.
But like
if
for
you're a good rep,
whatever.
So that guy that you dropped off, did he house all 4 of those McGrills?
He ate 2 of them. I ate the other 2.
Yeah, I figured you did.
But
took a nap.
And
I figured you did.
About 10% of the guys I worked with actually succeeded in life, and that's the hardest part about it. Yeah, after the fact.
Do you stay in touch with any of them?
Yeah, a few of them.
Yeah, very cool.
And the problem is there's not a lot of, and this is why I wanted to get out. There's not a lot of resources to help those to succeed, and it was just difficult. It's hard.
Yeah, the prison system is obviously.
And so you chose sales.
Yeah.
Well, you chose sales. To his point, though, you chose sales in an industry that is, yes, it's a luxury item. It's not a necessity, but it is still. It can be challenging, right, to be able to work with business owners, buyers, and the end is getting to who you were, the identity that you share with the end consumer, right? You want to enjoy the product, and you said this in the first part, for those that haven't listened or just tuning in now, is that with Micallef Cigars, as soon as you started interviewing for this, or this was an opportunity, you wanted to smoke the cigars so that you could believe in what you're selling.
Yeah.
Because that is the worst thing in sales, is if you are selling or working for a company, just in general, no matter what the position is, right? Whatever whatever your position in the company is, if you don't believe in what the company's doing, you're already walking in the door working for a paycheck, and that's not going to be fulfilling. So, there is stress. A job is going to become a job no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like what you're doing right now, Jeremy. All of us at this table actually are in the cigar business in some facet, and a job's going to be a job.
Yep.
But it doesn't necessarily it'll drain you. It'll affect your personal life. It'll affect your sleep, right? But what you're talking about there with the prison system that's a different level.
Yeah, you're not necessarily having someone call you at midnight saying they don't have a place to live.
Yeah.
How can you help? And it gets taxing when there should be resources, but there's not. And so being a pastor and working in the prison system was just getting too much for me. And Ryan would know, because I was at the shop all the time. And it was just getting to the point where both of my jobs were emotionally draining. That was probably the in my opinion, the most defeated I've ever seen you. Yeah, it was getting pretty tough. And I've always been bivocational. So even pastoring a church, like I've always had a second job, mainly because my personality is I like to work. And I feel like if I was just a pastor, I would get lazy, because ministry work is feast or famine. I don't care who you ask. There are, should I say it?
Yeah,
go for it. I don't find pastors to have the best work ethic. I find it to be.
It depends on the pastor. I'll tell you that.
It's true. It definitely depends. But in my opinion, like, it's allowed me to stay kind of connected with the world around me and stay busy working and not get lazy. So for me, that's what.
Yeah.
When my stepfather was alive, he was a pastor as well. And there's so much of your story that actually mimics my stepfather. But like when he would work on sermons, he wasn't necessarily working on sermons for that week. He was working on sermons for like 3-4 weeks down the line. So he was working for, Sunday morning. He was working for Bible study. He was working for, a men's mentoring group that he did. So he was always prepping like 3 services, but always weeks in advance. And then, the week of going back over those notes and finalizing everything. And you do have some that kind of phone it in every week. You got the ones that sit there and they'll give a 30-minute sermon and 20 minutes of it are jokes and anecdotes and stories.
You've also, pastors in my experience, and I was raised in the church, and no longer really involved in that, but all the way until I was about early 20s, very, very involved in the church, raised Lutheran. But I found pastors just like anyone else in life. I mean, you can you can put it in the light of, I was going to make a joke in a sense that your ultimate boss shouldn't let you get lazy, right? You know what I mean? If you're a pastor, but it's
audience of one. So
I mean, God is,
you know, the cliches.
He's everywhere. If you believe in that. But it's something that I feel like there was a lot of ego involved sometimes with pastors, right?
Yeah.
That happens with people in leadership, no matter what the industry is. And I'm not gonna just talk bad about the church, but I feel like that's where you do find that sometimes when there's a leader of an organization, ego gets involved. I mean, it's still, and not to go off the religious route completely, but I mean, it is absolutely, you know, religion being, from my opinion, there's a divide of different religions, even within the religion, where it becomes man-made to a point, right? Man influence, so man, woman. But this is, forgive me for, it's people influenced.
Yeah.
So that's where all of a sudden it becomes a job again. So I can see where you're saying that people can get lazy.
You expect CEOs, presidents of companies to have an ego. Like there's a level of arrogance that's needed to succeed.
Yeah, it's level of
confidence. Can I say confidence?
Well, you brought up earlier in the part one, you know, about Al Micallef, where you obviously being in charge of a congregation, you've seen these things in the ministry, you've seen these things, you know, in your experience, but then when it comes to a business, the ones that you really respect, there is an ego, there's a confidence there, but it's not necessarily at all costs.
Yeah,
there are good leaders, there's bad leaders, there's good pastors, there's bad pastors, there's good just in general. There are good mentors, there's bad mentors. Like, what is the overall goal, and what are they trying to accomplish, and who are they putting first, type thing.
Yeah. So the unfortunate thing in the religious circles or church circles, you don't expect or anticipate,
you don't want to think
that pastors who are, if I could say, the CEO, the presidents of the organization, to have some sort of superiority complex, narcissism, arrogance, but it's
sadly there. God complex in the church.
Gone through that too.
It's there, and it's unfortunate. And I think a lot of it is because, you know, we've created this religion that becomes a kind of money-making monster for the people involved. And it's why, like, I love
keep talking.
I love the church. I love Jesus. I love community. But what I have realized is that in the cigar community, I have seen more actual community than that within the church.
I make a comment sometimes, you know, about like even Tinder Box at Easton, where it's like, you know, Royale, first of all, like, you know, great lounge, you know, and you travel around now. Ryan, you did as well. Nate, you were a rep at some point as well. You see these different shops, different lounges and all that stuff, where I've always said, even when I was a customer, a regular at Tinder Box at Easton, it's like, because I saw a parallel in my upbringing, was that it's not always the church or the, you know, I, again, grew up Lutheran, and it was like you sat in pews, wooden pews, and it was like, it's the congregation, it's the people that are involved that I feel as though that really drive your level of interest into your life in that community. And so that's when you said that, completely, it pushed me right back into that, where I remember, I haven't said it in a long time, but I think that it's always the people around you, it's the congregation, it's your community, as you said, where it doesn't have to be the flashiest spot, right? It doesn't have to be, you know, in the church world, it doesn't have to have like all of these big structures. It can be a small room, and it can be something where I feel as though that you have this really strong bond with the people around you.
My favorite part, especially the Tinder Box. And we get it here we get it at the Royale too, but especially at the Tinder Box when we would get phone calls, and it would be from a customer that you may knew, like, and they would call up to the cigar shop. I know a lot of you guys have had this. Hey, you guys have a mechanic up there that hangs out there? Yeah, I sure do. Let me get you Dennis's number and send his car over.
Not as much anymore, but
yeah, but absolutely. Whoever, you know what I mean? Just
you got a guy.
Yeah, I got a guy.
That Rolodex.
You know what I mean? I got a guy. Hey, do you have a handyman? Yeah, I got a guy. And that happens so many times to where that community is so strong that based on your word and based on, I would recommend this person. People utilize that. That's important for a lot of people, especially now, the older that we get, who we hang out with is based on our community and where we choose to spend our free time.
Yeah. The good about the church is that we exist to reach the least, the lost, and the lowly. So those who are struggling, like, there should be a community there that will help those who are at their worst. And that's the purpose of a church. But on the other side of that, the difference is when you kind of create a community that way, is that you have people who walk in with an agenda.
Yeah.
And in the cigar community, you don't have that as much.
Yeah, I was going to say there's definitely some egos out there walking in trying to, like, keep up with the Joneses. There's the part where it's just like, I know more than you type thing. And you're just like, all right, chill out, bro.
When you sit down and you light up a cigar with a group of guys, like the common denominator, the equalizer in the room is a cigar.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you can talk about anything. That should be or used to be the same thing with the church. That the common denominator, the equalizer, is our pursuit, passion for Jesus. But then you get egos and power grabs and all these things that get involved, and it starts to create a toxic culture. Yeah. And that's the hardest thing, man. I love, like I said earlier, love the church and the community, but it gets exhausting when you start to deal with the toxicity that's there because of people's need for whatever, maybe power, control,
self-worth. I would
self-worth.
That's the biggest thing.
I just a question. As you said earlier, there's egos, there's personality types, there's toxic traits within every community, including the cigar community.
For sure.
There are customers, there are regulars, there are people that we may not like to be around as much, or maybe it's draining to be around these people for whatever reason.
I like to be around everyone.
But why is it so, like it's accepted in this industry? We just chalk it up to, oh, that's just Bob. He's just the way he is. But in the church, when egos arise and and we have these different personality traits that typically don't mesh together, and that kind of comes out, that's an issue that creates more of a toxic environment. Why is that?
And more toxic in the church?
Yeah. Why is that?
Jeremy, if you want, I've got an opinion. Nate, I'm sure you have one, but go ahead, Jeremy.
Yep. Go ahead. You want to answer?
I'm just curious. Open dialogue for anybody.
I don't think it's more or less anywhere. I think that when it comes to religion, if you're in the same church or same religion or whatever it might be, history will show you that there have been great divides based off of differences of opinion, and you can chalk it up to ego on one side or both. I think that when you a hobby or lifestyle of smoking cigars or being in the cigar industry at the level that the four of us are at the table and a lot of listeners are at, it's different than when you introduce a religion. Is not just a lifestyle for most people, right? So I think that it'll get amped up in that, but I think it's much the same. I've been through a church split, and one of the reasons I'm no longer, no longer religious, but I'm not a part of any organized religion, is because I saw it at a younger age in my early 20s when I was raised in it, and it absolutely took everything out of it. I saw it in the cigar industry, just in a local thing. This, those are in the cigar community here in Columbus. You probably saw it if you've been around it long enough, but this is not uncommon where there was someone was fired and someone bought another shop. And then all of a sudden it's like all these legs kind of branched off from something. But there was so much of a divide, and some people were putting so much mental space into what is upsetting them. In my experience, Jeremy, you don't know this about me, but when I was in college, I was raised in that church, and there was Lutheran Church overall. We were an ELCA, which is a synod of a church, which is a division of it. When I was in Chicago growing up, my parents and when I was younger, we were part of the Missouri Synod. And so there's different doctrine, or there's different things that are kind of part of the same thing. So you have the Protestant religion, then you have Lutheran, then you have this, you have Methodist over here, you have Episcopalian over here, and all this stuff. And then they were trying to do some things, I think, looking back from a business standpoint, right? And so then all of a sudden there was a divide within the church. And all of a sudden, me growing up in there, from the time I was 8 years old to the time I was 20 years old, and I was away at college, I came home and there was this big divide going on. So you have one pastor on one side, one pastor on the other. Then you have people that you grew up with, your friends with their kids and all this stuff. They weren't even talking anymore. And there was this whole thing. So there was just this big divide, because I feel as though with religion, if you are religious in that standpoint, there's more at stake for you. Yeah. When it comes to business, it comes to like the cigar community and stuff like that. That's ego. That's just like, all right, go fuck yourself. Go smoke a cigar somewhere else. Like, you don't like this place anymore because of whatever your reason is. You want to hold a grudge. No one cares. Yeah. Really, no one cares when it comes down to it of why you're not shopping at a store or a lounge anymore. Church is a different aspect of it. But there's a lot of parallels there, because business and church is the same way. The offerings coming in versus the sales coming in, it's the same thing. Yeah. It is the exact same thing. Sales fixes so much. Money coming in fixes a lot. Yeah.
The people long for community. Yeah. Like that's what we want. You find it in the cigar industry, you find it in church, you find it in work, wherever it may be. We live in the most connected kind of era ever. When you talk about social media, cell phones, but people would tell you that they feel the most isolated now.
It's quite a phenomenon.
Yeah. And so
because we're connected through this, we're not connected through this.
Yeah. People need the in-person community. I mean, COVID showed that. They exposed.
I feel like we're going off topic. We'll bring it back up. Back on that, but good
and so
this is great. Yeah,
good conversation. I'm just taking off the many hats thing, because this is going down a rake all the rabbit hole, and that's fine. But we're good.
We could have had rabbit hole whiskey on today.
Yeah, damn, they could have. But people long for community, and the problem is the church. The church should be the place where people go to find that community, and unfortunately, anymore, it's not, because of.
So what's the purpose?
Well,
what's the purpose of what? Church?
No, I mean that just if that no. What's the purpose of a congregation that they're supposedly all like-minded, right? And what's the point of? I'm
going to answer that real quick. So go ahead, Jeremy. Sorry.
I'll explain it this way. So I did a funeral service for a biker community. It was probably the most intimidating moment of my life.
I remember you telling me this story.
And
why were you intimidated?
Because I rode a bike during that time, but it was a Honda. It wasn't a Harley. Yeah. And so
this is a modified Honda though.
Oh, the one you remember was that Warrior. I love that.
That was a nice bike.
But this was back when I lived in Steubenville. This was for a biker club. So these are Harley
club.
Yeah, these are guys who had a cut. I mean, this was a club.
1%er.
Yeah, and
3-piece.
So they the guy who passed away, the family asked me to do the funeral, and we had some conversations, and I get to the funeral home, and I decide to ride my motorcycle.
No.
I ride it there.
I get the effort, right?
Okay.
No, I like it. I like it.
Listen, I get there, and it was
all coming up on like the
they were already there.
Throaty, and you come in
a line full of Harleys, and I come into my Honda.
You might have been
it might as well be a moped. That's exactly it. And so
might as well have been a moped. You're like kicking the pedal, like yeah. There we go.
I'm like, I'm gonna park in the parking lot.
It'd be 14 to ride a moped. By the way,
yeah. The funeral director's like, no, line up with the Harleys. I said no. He's like, yes. And so he gets me in the line with the Harleys. I'm like, this is insulting to everyone there.
This movie going where you kick your kickstand down and you're like walk away and it just knocks over a whole line of Harleys
and so,
at the funeral.
That's not what happened. All right.
So there were 2 bikes they damaged.
I walked inside and it was full of, guys wearing their vests and colored, everything. And I did the funeral. And at the end, we all get on our bikes and we do the kind of procession to the gravesite. And here's what was amazing to me. We get there, and when it came time to fill the hole, all the bikers lined up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this camaraderie. And they took a shovel and they began one at a time to fill the hole, because that's what they did.
And no one says shit about your bike.
No.
That's the thing. Bikers are bikers.
Yeah. And there was this just camaraderie community there that I'm like, this is what people long for. And they'll find it in every other place. And it's where the church is supposed to be the representation of that kind of community. And unfortunately, because of the egos, because of the arrogance, because of the whatever, we haven't been. And a lot of people would say, I don't go to church because of the hypocrisy. Well, that's strange, because the whole purpose of this religion, Christianity, is I'm claiming to be something I'm not. Like, that's the whole point, is I'm not perfect.
Right.
And you expect me to be perfect, and I'm not. And so where community should thrive is under this banner of, hey, we're all not okay, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, unfortunately, exist.
No, it doesn't. It's you say egos are involved. You say all these flaws in it that should be the strengths of it. But I mean, to tie in those 2 stories there with the biker funeral, and that I used to ride, and it was like, you have a wave, go to bike nights, doesn't matter what you're riding, as long as you're riding. But as you progress through that, the same shit goes on, to do the parallel between what you were talking about with the church and the bikers, and then you're part of the prison system. I mean, there's a lot of that where it's like you want to be accepted, you want to have a purpose, right? And you combine all that stuff, and what I'm hearing from you that maybe you're not intending to it is like, that's the whole gang life, right? That's the whole community thing. You want to move into a certain neighborhood so you can be a part of something.
Yep.
You want to be a part of something that you long for. But I think the biggest, not flaw, but I think the biggest thing is that if you're not being true to yourself and you're trying to do it just to be accepted, that's where I think the flaws really shine through. Whether it be you're part of a church, you're part of a gang, you're part of whatever the community is, you're trying to just like cigars. Let's take it down to a trivial thing, like a hobby that's a lifestyle for a lot of people, but you're doing it to meet people. You're doing whatever it is. You don't even like cigars. No. You don't even like bourbon, but it's like, if I get into this, I can meet people.
Yeah.
That's how I started hanging out at the shop.
You also came in there and smoked cigarettes, and
that's what I'm saying. Listen, that's it. You're right. I didn't even, I smoked cigars in the past, but it was nowhere near the.
I'm going to let you finish. I want to say this, though, is the difference is that if you walk into it with that mentality, that's okay. You have to be open.
What do you mean? Because when I first walked in there, I was intimidated, but I knew that the one thing that I was missing in my life at that young age was guidance and community.
That's you being open. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't buy a bike just to ride with people, right? You know, like I first started riding because my friends and I were all buying bikes, and it's like someone bought a bike, they knew more, and then I bought one, and
it was wind therapy for me.
Wind therapy. So for me, it was just like it was a common bond. It was like cigars. Like we were all doing it. Like my first bike I bought was $200. It didn't run. 1975 Yamaha RD350 two-stroke, terrible bike to buy, right? But I was working in a dining hall at the college, and I bought it from one of my coworkers who was, all things considered, he was a townie, right? No, it was. I mean, I was friends with all those people working there, and he had a bike that just was sitting there.
I was reading Ray's comment.
Yeah, it's very political. But it was one of those things that I started riding because my buddy started. He was big into motorcycles, and I was like, I want to get into this. This is a hobby thing. But I also was open to learning.
Yeah,
like you were. This is why I was cutting you off a little bit. Was that when you came in there? Is like you were a sponge, and you admitted that. Through your actions, that you were a sponge. You were not just trying to be cool. You weren't trying to fit in. You weren't trying to do that. You wanted to learn, and you did.
I just wanted, honestly, like, to take cigars out of it. I didn't even want to be there for the cigars.
You want a community?
No, I'm serious. I just wanted to be there for the people. There were times that I walked in there, and I had absolutely maybe $10 left after all my bills to my name. No money.
You work for Abercrombie. Walk over there. This guy used to walk in the shop in the wintertime.
16, 17 years old.
With blue toes.
Did he have the DV?
No, I didn't do a DV.
He put a shirt on to come in. That's the thing.
Yeah, I did. I put a shirt on.
Peak of Abercrombie, where it's like he had to stand outside.
Yeah, my toes, man. My toes were frigid.
So
my toes were.
I remember Barnes being like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah. And I did. I would walk in the snow in flip flops.
I know.
Just to go over there and hang out for 30 minutes to an hour at a time. Whatever I could.
Smoke cigarettes on his lunch.
Yeah, smoke cigarettes.
That's why he's so skinny, actually. I think that's this.
So in 2004 is when I took my first ministry job.
How old were you?
21.
So you're 21. You were already doing this youth ministry?
Youth ministry. Now, here's the thing. I grew up
in the church.
I grew up in the church.
Sure.
And I wanted nothing to do with the church. I went to Grace College because I had a tennis scholarship. I played tennis and taught tennis professionally most of my life. And when I went to college, I finally met people at college that loved Jesus. And it wasn't fake. It wasn't you had to be perfect. It wasn't, crusty old people who told you what to do. Like, it just was different. And so I had a youth pastor when I grew up that was always there for me, regardless of what I did. And so I decided that I wanted to be that for somebody.
I like that.
And so I go into youth ministry. I take on this church in Angola, Indiana. And we're there for 6 months. And there was a lot of what they classified as street kids. So skater kids who would skateboard, and I did that in high school.
I can tell from the hat. Yeah, no, I can tell from
the hat?
Yeah.
The flat bill?
The Ruka.
Okay, either way.
All of it. Say Ruka?
Yeah, it's RVCA Ruka.
Yeah. That's a V. It's not a
U. But it's Ruka. Look it up.
Ruka.
Either way.
Ruka. Look it up. Ruka.
So
you look like a skater.
All these skater kids, like, I would pick them up. We'd load up my car. We'd go skate, and then they wouldn't have any, like, their parents would leave for the weekend and they wouldn't have any place to eat, no food. And so my wife and I would have them come over at our house, and we'd feed them. They started coming to the church. A long story short, the church leadership sat me down and said, "Hey, you need to no longer spend your time with the church or the street kids and focus on the kids who left." I said, "Well, these are kids who've never darkened the doors of a church. Shouldn't that be who we want to come here? And they're like, well, our church kids' parents don't want them around their kids. I'm like, these kids show up more than the church kids. And so we were doing this like
they can be church kids.
Yeah.
This is the whole goal.
The whole point.
Yeah.
We were doing this this lake day where one of the parents of the church was going to take us out on the lake and go tubing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what kids?
A nice community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, what kids are invited? I said, all the kids. Well, we don't want the street kids to come.
They had a name for them, street kids.
Yeah. And so I said,
that's how you keep people out of
like
the
a
church.
musical.
Yeah. I said, well, that's not going to happen. They are invited. So then they called me back and they're like, well, then because of insurance reasons, we won't be able to take him out on the boat. I said, okay. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's what we won't do. So I bought a deck from a local skate shop and I put on a skate off. Yeah, so I loaded the place with skate kids to have them do the skate off for this board. At the end of the day, they said, hey, you can't have them over at your house. You need to let them know your title has changed. You can't talk to them anymore. All these things.
They kicked you out of church.
No, I resigned. I called my father-in-law, who's been a pastor.
They were about to kick you out of church.
Yeah, but I called my father-in-law, who's been a pastor for 40 years, and I was like, I don't know what to do. He's like, it's best that you do ministry the way you feel called than to have your pantries full, is what he told me. And so I resigned at that moment, moved back down to Florida. And if I based my pursuit for Jesus off of how the church has reacted, I would not be in this anymore.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be.
Let me also contribute, because there are times, and not right now, but when we're talking about religion too much on this podcast, you say your pursuit for Jesus, which I appreciate, but it's also the pursuit for people.
Yeah.
This is a very universal thing. When someone challenges you, not just you, Jeremy, but anyone, when someone challenges a person on what their intent is, especially when you are that dedicated to it, you have a decision to make.
Yeah.
Are you going to do it for the paycheck, for the acceptance, or are you going to do it because you believe in what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing and who you're doing it for? I think there's a lot of moments in life that we all face that the challenges that are put upon you, or the confrontation, what is most important to you?
Yeah.
What's been driving you, and when that obstacle or the block comes in the road because people of more power than you might be at, that's a really tough fork in the road right there.
Yeah. Our mission statement. You see that?
Yeah, I'm gonna rinse it out for you.
Thanks, man. Our mission statement at our church is to prize Jesus, make disciples, and love well. And
what was the last part?
Love well.
Love well.
Because it's one thing the church does not do very well. And I feel like if we prize, thanks, man. If we prize Jesus, and then we teach others what that looks like, and then we love all people well, man, the kind of community that could flourish is,
So I'm going to kick you at the table. Anyone listening out there, Ray, I see you still out there. A couple other people out there. It's when you say Jesus, because it is universal in a sense that it's the goal, right? You know what I mean? It's where I hear this is that if you, and I'm not taking away from religion, but I'm just trying to open this up a little bit, is that when you love what you're doing, the goal, like you see that vision, you see all that stuff. We can keep it on religion and what you're saying with Jesus. I'm not trying to take away from that, but I'm saying is that when you love what you're doing, you love the vision you see where this could go. Yeah. What are you willing to sacrifice for that? And what are you willing to give up for that? Nate, Ryan, I want to hear from you guys.
I think whatever you're passionate about.
Not taking away from you, Jeremy. Not at all.
I think whatever it is that you are passionate about, religion, job, whatever. I think some people sit there and in their mind, they have a price, not necessarily dollars, but they have a price as to what they would give up for that, whether it be a paycheck or whether it be lifestyle or comfort. And then there are some people that are like, I don't care what it costs me. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I believe. This is what I'd love to do. I'm gonna do this regardless of what it costs. And I think those are the kind of people that you will find are the most sincere about it, are the people that are willing to give up everything, no matter what it costs them, in order to pursue that. Because that's what they believe. That's who they are. Like, that's what they want to do. And they're not going to let anything deter them or stop them from doing it. They're going to find a way. You know, Jeremy, you talked about being, bivocational most of your life. There was a point when, like my stepfather, when he got kicked out of the church, when he was the pastor of a church and got kicked out, like he took a job at Brooks Brothers selling suits. and then he actually, bless you.
That's a retro hill. I was doing something else. Holy Spirit, man. Jesus.
But no, I mean, like,
Holy Spirit's in the garage tonight here.
But no, I mean,
sorry, I'm not trying to belittle that.
He took a job selling suits just to be able to pay the bills, but he never lost his passion for doing what he did.
Yeah.
It amazes me how much of your story matches my stepfather.
Yeah.
Because he was a youth pastor early 20s, then became a pastor of a church, got kicked out of the church. Won't go into that story.
You said it before on the podcast.
I have.
Yeah. No, that's good.
And then the church we were in, there was a feeling of disingenuousness from leadership in the church, where it became that ego thing. And that was one of the reasons why we left the church and actually started a church in Grove City.
Yeah. Oh, really?
South Point.
Really?
Down at Commercial Point.
Yeah.
We started that church, and then there was a split, and then we started Crossover. And then when he got diagnosed with cancer, that just
fizzled out.
That was the end of it, because there was no one else in position to be able to take it over.
Huh.
But like he also did prison ministry.
It's not similar at all.
But like,
there's no parallels here at all.
Well, but then I even joke, the pastor of the church that we left, they built a new church, and to this day I still call that the house that Jerry built.
Yeah.
Reference to Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys. Same kind of thing. Like,
who's not doing very well right now.
Let's just build a giant freaking building.
All right.
Build it and they will come. That's what they. That's all right.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna say them.
No. Jerry Jones, I think he's doing all right. But I think he's gonna die a rich man.
Yeah, he is.
It's a great stadium. It's a great stadium.
It is.
Great.
But no, like, I mean, with my stepdad, even when he lost his job, and then when we started the church, starting a church with 8 families, that's not a large congregation. You're not going to be making a whole lot of money, barely enough to even support the family.
Yeah.
But there was always this passion that I saw in him, and also this willingness in wanting to mentor younger men and help them be the best people that they could be, religion or otherwise. The whole goal with that ministry, and then also when he did the prison ministry, was just getting these people to be the best people that they could.
Yeah.
And most of that, the only reward he got from that was those men going on and doing good work.
Yeah.
That was it. He never got anything monetarily from doing that kind of stuff. But that's not what his passion was about.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, hearing,
I think there's I'm going to bring this back to the part one of the episode here tonight. What Jeremy, you were talking about this, and it's even more impactful. I feel now where you're at right now with the cigar representative. What's your title? Is a territory manager, right?
Yeah.
I always put cigar rep. It's just like in the industry, like when we're hanging out, like cigar smokers that are customers, that's cigar rep.
Yeah.
But the title is territory manager. When you see good leadership, and then you hear your story, the qualifications of good leadership is so amped up. It's way more impactful. You know what I mean? It's not just someone that's inspired you because you are inspired by them. This is compounded, as far as your experiences of you've seen good and bad, you've seen all that stuff. Nate, what you're talking about, same thing, is the overall passion of just every day when you go into your job, you wake up and kids, wife, by yourself, whatever it is, your personal journey, whatever it might be, is that the inspiration that drives you, if you are qualifying it based on what you respect, I'm of the opinion that if you can put your energy forward, it's going to be very, very impactful to other people.
Yeah.
So when you talk about like Al, I'm not trying to bring us back to cigars, but when you talk about Al, the owner of the business that you're involved in now, what a good leader is to you. What is going to be impactful as it works down the hierarchy, and also what also will impact people that you're trying to bring into that. I'm not talking about like pyramid schemes or anything like that. I'm talking about you have the leadership at the top that's trying to grow the people that are below you, which is what a church should be, right? Whole thing there. In the cigar industry, no matter what business or whatever you're involved in, is that there's got to be some qualifications for you that this is worth it.
Yeah.
And Nate, what you were talking about, the same thing. You had 8 families
when we started.
8 families. You're right. It's not going to pay the bills, but it is like sales. I hate to say it. It's just like sales. The 8 families turns into 16, turns into 32 and 64 and so on. Right. These are the things that you really have to roll with those types of decisions in life that you think that. And you might not get rich off of it. You may not have all that stuff, but you have fulfillment in that where whatever you're doing, there's a reward there.
Yeah.
And before you say anything, the biggest struggle there is when you have those moments where, is this worth it? Am I making an impact? I'm making an impact. I'm going to stay on your example there with life, Nate. Even with you, Jeremy, the people in the prison system, going back to that, I'm making an impact on people, but is that worth my time? Yes, heavy. Of course. It gets heavy. Yes, it's worth it because I'm making an impact, but it's like, how is this going to put food on the table?
Yeah.
So there's always this back and forth there, right? There's the two big forces in life is that I feel fulfilled, but also I'm able to, provide for me and my family.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to choose between two, but there are times you have to choose between those two. And man, I think everyone at this table, everyone listening at some point now or later is that moment when you don't know if it's worth it is the crossroads that you have to really, really deal with, because you can have an impact on people in life. Like you were having an impact on people in prison. Like, your stepfather was having an impact on people in that congregation. But how does that affect your own life? Is it positive? And man, making those two things be positive all around and grow it, there's no answer. I don't have an answer for it, obviously, but I mean, to you guys at this table and you guys listening out there, like, how do you make those two really coincide where it's going to be worth it for everyone involved? Is it worth it for everyone involved, or do you sacrifice something?
You always sacrifice.
Okay.
I think that there's always something to sacrifice, and for me, whether it has been being a pastor, a youth pastor, working in the prison system, teaching tennis for a living, or a cigar rep.
Oh, teaching tennis?
Oh, you didn't know?
Did you miss that part earlier?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the head tennis director for a club. I grew up playing tennis my entire life. So my dad did. He was a tennis professional.
I missed that. Yeah, I did. I missed that.
So
Jesus.
either any of that, like,
do you have any other hidden talents?
No, he's not very good on the golf course. I'll tell you that.
This is not true.
How are your juggling skills?
I can juggle, actually.
Of course you can. I can.
I can.
What instrument do you play?
That actually, I am not musically inclined.
There we go. We found one.
You can sing though.
No.
In the shower.
No.
Not in the car.
But in any of those
he
avenues,
does sing in the shower.
I probably do.
Good.
But
he's even like upset about it.
Yeah.
The acoustics suck in here.
Listen, I will drive 3 hours on the job and not listen to music at all.
What are you listening to?
Nothing. I do nothing. I just
smoke
drive.
cigars?
Some people say that is a serial killer
Are you all
mentality.
right?
I don't know, but
You put on like
I
some
don't know,
smooth
man.
I
jazz
smoke
or
cigars.
something.
You smoke cigars?
I do. I do.
Damn, man.
Anyways,
You're listening to the cigars.
If you ever need someone to talk to, you can
Yeah.
call me while you're driving.
Yeah.
I mean,
You won't remember anything I say.
That's not true. That's not true at all. I take everything you said. Just about 98%.
All the things that I've done, I do it with one purpose. I care about people.
Yeah. That's
And
apparent.
at the end of the day, if I can make people better than I found them, I've succeeded. And that's what I want to do. So
Wow.
I like that.
It's a terrible outlook on life. It's so bad. You're such a good person. I hate it.
no, I'm not.
It's funny though. You know, it's funny because this
It's
is
just so annoying that you're such a nice person.
how all this kind of, you know, the conversation kind of got a little not off track, but you know.
Oh, we haven't talked about the topic at all.
No, not really. So it got a little.
Multiple hats. Let's go back to that.
It got a little off track, but it's cool. You know, we touched a little bit about community earlier, and to see what that really looks like now. You know what I mean? Like when we met at the. I was at the Tinder Box when we first met, right?
And you left us
No.
going.
Well, yes, because we were talking
The
about your
first
haircut.
time, yeah. Listen, the first.
Same haircut.
It was before I moved here. You guys were giving him a hard time about how often he gets his haircut.
Yeah,
It was once a
he
week.
was
Yeah.
also paying
And it was
you
like
too much.
$60.
He was like, I tipped him like $40.
He was spending like
what?
$400
Yeah.
a month on haircut.
And I was sitting in the corner just dying.
So and we have this history, right?
Yeah.
But
I missed a little bit of the 25-year-old Ryan Newman.
That's what I'm
but
saying.
I,
Like,
I,
when-
I also, there are some bad things going on
Yeah.
there, good things going on.
that's the beautiful part
I
of it.
love
Like
the growth, though.
There it
you
is.
met me at, you know, you saw 17, 18, 19-year-old Ryan, 20-year-old Ryan, 25-year-old Ryan, now 30. And there's been some improvements, some upgrades. And
Erica, man. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Your mom's been solid.
mom's solid. But
Great uncle.
I have a fantastic family. fantastic family, and I got a wonderful niece. And now, I met you you and I became close at Royale.
Yep.
That's where you and I really became close.
Yep. I did your wedding,
and you did. It got to the point, where you're.
I'm flying out to Punta Cana. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, yeah, like I consider you one. I can
buy your own fucking ticket.
You're a brother to me. You know what I mean? You're absolutely. You're a part of my family. You married me. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, I did your wedding. I performed the wedding, and I married you.
Yeah. You performed
international waters. We don't question anything. It's fine.
You performed my wedding, and that's it's. Ooh. I mean, it's an honor.
Put this up. Love this. Can you read that?
The new Ryan Newman is a way better person.
No, I mean
that's cool.
It is cool.
I like that.
It's cool because
isn't that something we all want to hear?
Yeah, like that's what we strive to.
You
strive to be better every single day, and the community that you surround yourself with over time. I mean,
yeah,
they can change you.
But that's the biggest misconception with church is that church people, it's not about the end goal being perfection or a destination. It's about the journey.
Yep.
It's about the progress.
Should be.
And I can say that just having you as an influence has encouraged me to better my life, whether it be to internally reflect, whether you want to talk, whether you want to say, accepting Jesus or
go on. Outhouse.
I need some of that too. Or whether it be just to be a better husband or to be a better friend or to be a better person. You've influenced me to do that. And all of you guys have in some fashion. But that's just the beautiful part of the community and what we strive to do for each other.
Yeah.
You gotta do number one, just go to the outhouse.
I already had to use a leap, so be careful.
I was gonna say I forget what I was gonna say. You get your bourbon.
Thank you.
I'll be right back.
Nate, how about from you? Let's hear from you.
Are we still talking about this or
not him going out to the outhouse?
No.
You're just loading up for closing remarks, aren't you?
No, I've already spent my closing remarks.
Right. You're a little early, huh?
I was gonna get excited.
I'm always second.
I don't want to talk about this.
No, I love what I've heard from both Ryan and Jeremy
close remarks
about it. Can be
for you. You don't have to.
No, the whole
get it wrong.
Like, why do we sacrifice the things we sacrifice? It's
sure.
It's because we have something in us that we're, whatever it is, we're like, I want to do this. I'm passionate about this. Every person has different things that they want to do and they want to be passionate about. And it's not making a name for yourself that a lot of people care about. There are some people that, yes, they want to make a name for themselves.
There's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with wanting to create a legacy for yourself or to create a name for yourself, however you want to look at it. There's nothing wrong with that. But
I think legacy is a little bit different. I think sometimes what's that legacy though? Sure. There are some people that want to pass down a legacy either to friends, community, to family. They want to pass down a legacy of, being a good person or whatever they're involved in. They want that to be their legacy. But then there are other people that they want their legacy to be all about themselves. And I think those are the people that the perception that they give off, the persona that you see, is this one of success and great joy and all that stuff. But then when you go behind closed doors, that's the exact opposite of what they are.
Sure.
Because they've been trying to fulfill that self legacy that then behind closed doors, all they have is themselves. They don't have a community. They don't have people around them. Yeah. There's an emptiness, a hollowness.
By trying to fulfill yourself, you leave yourself very open to being alone.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
It is. And,
we're designed to be in community.
If you sit there and you want your whole goal to be just you being great or you being better,
is there anything?
Cool. That's all your opinion. But the one that's really going to make a difference is what other people think about you. And I'm not saying that that everyone has to live their lives in order to make other people accept them and appreciate them. But it's more about what your motivation is. Is your motivation to make a name for yourself and, in your own mind, be the biggest name out there? Or is it about impacting other people? And I think those out there in whatever field, whatever job, the people that care more about bettering others will have a greater impact than the ones that care more about just bettering themselves. Because when you live a lifestyle, again, in whatever regards it is, when you live a lifestyle that's focused on bettering others around you, then that's going to have more of an impact on yourself than you just trying to better yourself ever will.
Well, yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree, but I think that bettering yourself first is first and foremost for many reasons. Like, for example, we all work to better ourselves and improve who we were the day before. But if I'm not my best version of me, how can I be a good husband? How can I be a good?
There is that thing that we talked about where you have to take care of the primary before you can take care of the secondary, tertiary. But there's only so much you can do for yourself. It's sometimes the greatest reward, with some of the numerous examples that Jeremy's given. Sometimes the greatest rewards are helping others better themselves, because then the rewards you see from that happening, that instills a sense of purpose in you and makes you a better person as well. You're not necessarily doing it just for you. I think that's the issue some people have, is they want to do it just for themselves versus for other people, and then them receiving the benefits on the backside.
So I played tennis in college. So start out.
I heard that later. I missed that.
You missed that.
I believe you missed that.
Went to state twice.
Not impressive, really.
Now it is. In Florida for high school. Yeah. And played in college. But when I started,
sport, man. Tough sport.
It is. When I was coaching tennis, between ages like 20 to 25, I was playing the best tennis of my life. And it's for the very reason you just said. It's because I was coaching other people. I was helping them get better. And in the process, it was making me better. This is biblical. The concept of discipling or teaching other people also makes you a better person. Like that's in every facet of life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The problem is, that cliche, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. We don't surround ourselves with people that will hold us accountable and make us our better version of ourselves. Most people have never experienced true friendship, meaning that
that's sad.
No, it's
true.
It's where at your lowest point. Yeah,
absolutely, you can.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Ray, I think to your point, that's what I was.
Ray asked, "Can you indirectly better others by bettering yourself?"
Yeah, absolutely. Because if to
both sides of the coin.
Yeah, I think that as you better other people, you're indirectly bettering yourself. but you can do both ways. As you better yourself, you're obviously going to better other people for sure.
Yeah.
If you surround yourself with the people that you're encouraging or that are encouraging you. But most people, their friends will abandon them at their greatest failure and be jealous of them at their greatest victories.
Oh.
Most people have not experienced people who stay with them in their greatest failures and celebrate with them in their greatest victories. Like, you've got to surround yourself with people that do that. And that's hard to find.
It's very hard to find. And typically you find out too late, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
As a pastor, my weakest moments, I've realized that it's hard to be a pastor's friend. Because if I fail, it's like I've done something epically wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
no, but that's the thing. Like, as somebody that's truly your friend, if you fail, knowing that you're a pastor, you're designed to be imperfect. You're not perfect. So if knowing that you're not perfect, when you're struggling with something in your life, if I'm not the type of guy that says, hey, what's going on? You're not yourself. If I'm not going to come to you, then I'm not truly your friend.
Yeah.
Period.
So we had a topic. We went off of it, which is great. Jeremy, Ryan, you guys, Nate, you don't know this about me, but when you're younger, you're in high school or whatever, and like you're shadowing someone, some I don't know what they do anymore, but when I was in high school, like you shadowed someone, not being an intern or anything like that. It was just like you shadow a profession. And I actually, it might be surprising to some of those that listen to this podcast on a regular basis. I shadowed my pastor, and I also he was my pastor. His wife was someone that I called Aunt. Very, very open disclosure there, where he told me what he made and what he did on a day-to-day basis, and it was intriguing. And then it was followed by what I was talking about earlier about the divide of the church, and I was like, everything was lost on me at that point. Not him or my aunt, what I called Aunt Wanda. And I went to his funeral, and she passed away later. It was a very impactful time in my life, and I look back at that, and they were very, very genuine. It has, to me now, nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with they figured stuff out that I hope to continue to hone in on stuff. Luckily, I feel like I was given a little bit of a cheat sheet of what worked for them based on their life and their influence on me. There was no ego involved. There was nothing there really pushing. That's the great part about this, is that when you're trying to live your life, you're trying to live your life. And when you're trying to influence or impact people, it's always, are you living that life? This podcast, part 2, has always been a big thing for me, where it's like, I've always been, during this time, last 6 years, I've had my ups and downs and all this stuff. And it's really hard to come up with content for part 2 where it's like emotional or it's like a life topic when things are going well. Because when things are going well, less people want to listen to it.
Well, the Bible says it's better to be in the house of mourning than house of feasting.
That's absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
when things are going well, I can absolutely, like, we can talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours about like me like getting up out of the bad parts of my life, and people on the podcast, we can really like, where are we going to go from here? Like, people like to hear that, you know what I mean? Like the people identify with that. They want to, people are struggling with that. When things are going well, it's not easy. There's still the ups and downs about this, but for me, it's listening to you guys tonight. It's very refreshing to hear this honest look on how do we get better. And literally looking down this table, you guys can't see my viewpoint, but I see Jeremy, Ryan, and Nate, and I know these guys, and they're in good situations. But anytime you guys look at people that are in good situations, they are still battling. We're always battling. And the people that are in their lives are battling. That's what makes this so worth it. We had a different topic tonight, but for me, part 2, listening to you guys is it worth it? That's the question you have to ask yourself all the time, from an occupational standpoint, from a personal relationship standpoint, from your personal relationship with yourself. Is it worth it? If you're asking that question when you look at yourself in the mirror, as a man, as a woman, as just a person, are you excited about tomorrow? If you're not, that's another conversation with yourself and also with the people around you. If you're excited, keep that excitement, push it forward, and keep doing that. Everything you said tonight, Jeremy, you were up and down, up and down, up and down with what you were doing. That is life. But you really have, not you, everyone out there, push forward, latch on to the things that bring you joy, and figure out what is holding you back, so that you don't walk away from it. But I hope that you would absolutely recognize what is holding you back from just enjoying life, so that you can not fix it, but just put your effort into what makes you happy.
Surround yourself with good people.
Yes.
Imperfect, but good people.
Everyone's imperfect.
Yeah.
Guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Cheers.
It's a good sound.
Yeah. A lot of cheers there.
Oh, not bad.
Thank you, guys. We're working on it.
What kind of cigars that you're smoking?
Hand rolled. Handmade.
It's a custom roll there.
Handmade.
It smells terrible.
You think?
I know.